Chapter 383. He was sad because he was gone. He was happy because his old shadow had reappeared. Between sadness and happiness, Sumo's eyes were brimming with tears. That was because the woman in red on the green urn was none other than Mu Jinghong. To Sumo, Mu Jinghong was the most special existence. Back then, Mu Jinghong guided Sumo into the sect and had always been her Tao protector. Everyone in the Five Wheels knew that Mu Jinghong, known as the stunning 3,000 years of white bones, was Sumo's backer. It could be said that without the Mu Jinghong of the past, there would be no Sumo today. Thousands of years had passed, but nothing had changed. That day, under the 9th peak of the wind wheels, Mu Jinghong used an extreme method to die in Sumo's arms. That was Sumo's longest and deepest pain. Even now, he did not understand why Mu Jinghong did that. At that time, he did not understand Mu Jinghong's explanation. But now, Sumo felt that he should be a reincarnated person, but he did not know who he was. Although he did not understand many things, he remembered Mu Jinghong's words before he died. In his previous life, they must have known each other, and their relationship was not shallow. Otherwise, Mu Jinghong would not have used his death to awaken Sumo. If one life was not enough, then two. If two was not enough, then three, or even millions of lives. Sumo felt that he had not woken up. Mu Jinghong's death made Sumo depressed for 100 years, until he was sure that reincarnation was possible in the Pure Land. It could be said that for 1,000 years, Sumo's ultimate goal was to reunite with Mu Jinghong. No matter what, Sumo did not expect to see Mu Jinghong in the Soul Depository Cauldron. Senior Mu, Sumo was very excited. The little white pig was also stunned. The little fellow could sense the changes in Sumo's heart. When it was in Sumo's arms, it had secretly seen Mu Jinghong. Black and cold, red and bloodthirsty. She was a mysterious woman. The little white pig understood that this female cultivator had a close relationship with Sumo. She could be considered as a half-heroine. Also, wasn't this the previous owner of the big black crow? Sure enough, the moment the red shadow appeared, the black-feathered Shanhong let out a cry towards the sky and flew towards Mu Jinghong. However, it was still blocked in place, unable to advance an inch. Sumo's situation was almost exactly the same. Inside the soul storage altar cave, there was a mysterious power that sealed everything. Senior Sister Mu, Sumo called out. However, the red-clothed Mu Jinghong turned a deaf ear to him, and his expression did not change much. Sumo, the little white pig, and the black-feathered deity did not seem to be in her eyes. She only immersed herself in her own world. Mu Jinghong's beauty was undeniable. She was dressed in red, and her beauty was unparalleled. However, at this moment, the red figure's expression was calm and emotionless. Was that a divine sense or a mirror image? Sumo could not tell. After all, whether it was a mirror image or a divine sense, there were spells that the current Sumo could not reach. Mu Jinghong looked up at the stars in the sky, then down at the sea beneath her feet. Her movements were very slow, so slow that they seemed to be filled with nostalgia. However, Sumo felt that Mu Jinghong's eyes did not reflect the starry sky or the great river. Her gaze, however, was unusually clear and cold. Above her was the starry sky, and below her was the sea. In that moment, Mu Jinghong, dressed in red, floated above the large green urn, looking somewhat dreamy. However, Sumo noticed that the red light beneath Mu Jinghong's feet had not left the red muslin that sealed the large green urn. Senior Sister Mu, Sumo called out again. However, Mu Jinghong still did not respond. Sumo couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. At this time, he discovered that a transparent water screen had appeared in front of him. He, the little white pig, and the black-winged Godhong were completely separated from Mu Jinghong. When he looked again, the red-robed Mu Jinghong sighed softly and then waved her hand in the air. Her eyes were filled with disappointment as she said softly, "Immortal, immortal bone, immortal soul, immortal reincarnation, immortal heart. There is no limit to the heavens, and only the ruler of the mortal world." Mu Jinghong was talking to herself, but her voice was full of sorrow and sorrow. As the red-clothed Mu Jinghong drew, the 4 lines of poetry on the black stone table that seemed to be floating on the sea actually lit up one by one. That was written by Senior Sister Mu. Sumo's heart shook. He had never thought that this soul storage altar cave dwelling was related to Mu Jinghong. What is sealed in that large green urn? Sumo really wanted to know. At this time, after Mu Jinghong finished writing, her hands started to form seals. Mu Jinghong's seals were fast and complicated. Whoosh! A large green urn appeared above Mu Jinghong's head. The green urn was identical to the urn under Mu Jinghong's feet. Mirror image. At this time, Sumo was finally sure. Everything he saw was a kind of mirror image, or rather, a memory left on the red muslin sealing the altar. Xiao, I will find you in my next life. In this life, I have tried my best. My lifespan is up, but I am willing to reincarnate for you. When Mu Jinghong said this, her figure started to fade. She slowly turned into a ray of red light. Senior Sister Mu, Sumo shouted. Although he knew that Mu Jinghong couldn't hear him, he still wanted to shout. In reality, it was just a way for Sumo to comfort herself. Who is Xiao? What is Hongshun? Sumo suddenly felt a headache. It was an inexplicable pain, but the feeling was fleeting. Mu Jinghong's seals had finished. Her figure had completely turned into a red light. In the end, only a wisp of red light was left. It attached itself to the red muslin of the green urn. Whether it was a psychological effect or a real change, Sumo felt that the red muslin sealing the urn had become redder. The red mud at the seal had also become redder. Whoosh! Mu Jinghong's mirror image had completely disappeared, but the starry sky and sea had not. Whoosh! Whoosh! The waves of the sea rose again. The green urn actually started to spin, but it was spinning very slowly, as if something was stopping it. Suddenly, the green urn's seal emitted a faint green gas. Amidst the green gas, a somewhat illusory figure floated out. The figure was very faint, as if it could disappear at any moment, but it was unusually clear. At that moment, Sumo's face paled. Her expression was one of fear, because it was Mu Jinghong, dressed in green. But her face was as pale as paper. Blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. She looked very weak. There was a plum blossom mark between her brows. That mark was faintly glowing. Plum blossom? Sumo recalled that when Mu Jinghong died, the sky was filled with plum blossoms. Mu Jinghong's aura was very weak, as if her soul could dissipate at any moment. Fated One, I will give you the Dust Net scripture. Please come to the Dust Net world and save me. Chapter 384. Fated Person, I will give you the Dust Sieve scripture. Please come to the Dust Sieve world and save me. After saying that, Mu Jinghong instantly disappeared. Senior, Mu, Sumo's voice was slightly hesitant. She did not understand why there was another Mu Jinghong. Also, that Mu Jinghong was not a mirror image, but a divine sense. However, that divine sense should have been separated from Mu Jinghong when he was heavily injured and on his last breath. That divine sense could only send out this sentence. Fated Person? This should mean that Mu Jinghong was not sure who would see this divine sense. However, due to a strange combination of factors, it was Sumo who came here and discovered the seal. All of this was not to keep Sumo alive. However, Sumo still had doubts in her heart. Black, red, or green? Which one was Mu Jinghong? Also, looking back, Mu Jinghong of 5 wheels should not know about the existence of the soul storage altar. Then, the red shadow on the wall of the old house should be Mu Jinghong in red. The technique to open this place came from Mu Jinghong's inheritance, and Mu Jinghong did not seem to know about the existence of Mu Jinghong in green. Inside the cave, the words Soul Storage Altar were written in a different font from Mu Jinghong's poem. Could it be that Mu Jinghong wrote the words Soul Storage Altar? What was in that green urn? Who was the one who sealed this green urn? Was it Mu Jinghong in red? Or was Dust Sieve World? Who hurt Mu Jinghong in green? Who was I? What did Mu Jinghong's attitude towards her back then mean? Sumo's brows furrowed as he speculated in his heart. Everything seemed to be connected in countless ways, but it also felt chaotic and disorderly. In the end, even Sumo felt a headache coming on. She had no clue at all. It was at this moment that the soul storage altar started to change again. The green urn started to spin rapidly. In the beginning, Sumo could still see clearly 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. However, the urn spun faster and faster, causing the golden runes around it to spin. Red light, green light, and golden light formed a wheel. At that moment, Sumo saw the whirlpool in the sea below suddenly expand. She looked up and saw a black hole in the middle of the starry sky. Wind howled inside the soul storage altar. The green urn disappeared in an instant. Sumo raised an eyebrow. Oof. The little white pig jumped up. Clang. Black-feathered God King probably didn't expect this either and let out a cry. At the same time, they realized that the shackles around them had been lifted. The man, the beast, and the bird instinctively pounced in the direction of the green urn. Boom! Rumble. However, the entire soul storage altar started to shake, and the sea beneath their feet disappeared at a visible rate. The sea instantly turned into a dark brown land. However, the entire cave did not return to its original state. The floor of the cave abode had become as smooth as a mirror, as if it had been meticulously polished. The original stairs and platform did not appear again. However, the black stone strip was still there, but it seemed to be embedded in the ground. The 4-line poem by the red-clothed Mu Jinghong was also there. The large vermilion words shone brightly. It was like all of the red-clothed, Mu Jinghong's stubbornness and unwillingness. Sumo, the little white pig, and the black-feathered God King stood dazedly in the middle of the cave abode. All of these changes were far beyond their expectations. The starry sky above the cave abode had not disappeared. Those stars were still bright and dazzling, and the entire cave abode was still hazy. The 3 of them were a little confused. After waiting for a while, nothing changed. Sumo, the little white pig, and the black-feathered God King looked at each other. It seemed that they all thought that there would be no change. In reality, that was the case. For a whole 15 minutes, the cave abode was quiet. Nothing unusual happened. Sumo tried to use the spell again. The red lights that had been extinguished did not light up again. The spell seemed to have completed its mission and was useless. Humph. The little white pig snorted and raised its nose to sniff, but it didn't find anything unusual. The black-feathered God King's eyes were a little lonely, because he had clearly seen Mu Jinghong just now, but he had disappeared in the blink of an eye. Phew. Sumo exhaled and slightly calmed down. Everything that had happened just now had a great impact on him. There were too many things that he had to sort out. However, he remembered the last words of Mu Jinghong. Dust Sieve Sutra. That sutra was in his ragged bag. Back then, the little white pig had given it to him like a treasure, but it was a wordless heavenly book. There were a total of 9 pages, except for the front and back cover. The rest were blank. As Sumo pondered, he took out the Dust Sieve Sutra again. The material of the Dust Sieve Sutra was exactly the same as that of the red dust fan. They should both be human skin. Dust Sieve Sutra. The 3 words on the cover were very simple and unadorned, exuding an aura of vicissitudes. Sumo gently turned the page, and something that shocked him again happened. Now, the first page of the Dust Sieve Sutra was not blank, but a picture appeared. This change must be related to everything that had happened just now. Mu Jinghong's divine thought had opened the seal of the book. The picture on the first page was quite strange. There were many stars and many straight lines. At first glance, it looked somewhat messy and disorderly. However, Sumo immediately saw some clues. He directly raised his head and looked at the starry sky of the Immortal's Cave. If it was really a starry sky, then the picture in Sumo's hand should be a star chart. Sumo carefully compared the star chart in his hand, and it should correspond to the entire northeast corner of the starry sky. And in the northeast corner, there were a total of 3 bright stars. They all belonged to the 7 by 749 stars. Dust Sieve Realm? Sumo pondered. Of course, this was only his speculation. The first page of the Dust Sieve Sutra was a star chart, without any other markings or words. Sumo turned to the second page. This page suddenly emitted a brilliance, which was a kind of golden brilliance. Many tadpole-like golden characters covered the page. And at the same time that Sumo turned to this page, those golden characters began to automatically enter Sumo's mind. At first, Sumo didn't recognize those golden characters. However, when those characters truly entered Sumo's mind, they completely turned into characters that Sumo could recognize. Dust Sieve Sutra. Sumo's heart shook, and his eyes instantly brightened. It turned out to be a cultivation treasure, and could even be said to be all-encompassing. It was divided into two parts, upper and lower. The upper part was a soul cultivation method, while the lower part was a variety of wondrous techniques. However, whether it was cultivation methods or wondrous techniques, they could not be studied by cultivators below the immortal realm. Currently, these golden characters only existed in Sumo's sea of consciousness. It was impossible for Sumo to study them. He had to become a burial god cultivator. Even so, Sumo was still very pleasantly surprised. One must know that he urgently needed cultivation methods above the undying realm. Right now, he only had the last part of the unwithering art, the unwithering soul. Moreover, that was only a chi refinement method. In other words, it could no longer satisfy Sumo's needs. Sumo suppressed his excitement and continued flipping through the pages. Unfortunately, the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth pages were still blank. However, the blankness was not the same as before. The page emitted a faint light. Sumo could feel that this Dust Sieve Sutra seal had been unlocked. However, he couldn't understand these few pages. Sumo continued to read. The seventh page was finally no longer blank. 8. Chapter 385. The seventh page of the Dust Sieve Sutra was actually filled with incomparably messy handwriting. The handwriting was quite crazy, like cursive writing after getting drunk. Those characters were different from the two characters inside the soul altar cave abode. Sumo frowned as she read. Only then did she realize that those words were actually intermittent, or more accurately, it was more like they were casually jotted down. His words were messy and without a head or tail. Huang has been gone for 7 days, and there's actually no news from him. Deep thoughts. There's something wrong with the river of stars. All the stars are shaking. The fiend flower flooded the Milky Way, causing many stars to fall. He did not understand why the demons sealed by the venerables had been eliminated. Where did the red flower come from? It was said that the stars of Zio, Jiluan, and Heaven Cultivation had been destroyed. I wonder if it's real or not. Where are the spirit lords? Where was the demon venerable? Where is the demon lord? The sea of stars is vast and mighty, and there is no more zither music. The sea is silent, and the willow town is faint. AMU, you said that the 3 realms have eternal life, but where is eternal life? AMU, you said to disperse karma, but karma comes back again. Could it be that you were the one who led the 3 realms to destruction? 10,000 stars are burnt to ashes. Blood stains the starry sky. I am willing to fight for the 3 realms. I'm willing to fight for the galaxy. I am willing to fight for samsara. How sad. How magnificent. I can't accept this. I want to go to immeasurable fairy. I want to step on a lotus and find out the truth. Sumo read line by line. The more she read, the more confused she became. At the same time, the more she read, the heavier her heart became. Although it was just a few words, the amount of information was not small. Obviously, these were the words left behind by a great figure of the 3 dimensions. The last few words were written in a deranged manner, and one could imagine how he felt. The person who wrote it must have been filled with grief and indignation. The last few lines on the page caused Sumo's expression to change slightly. Caressing the long sword, singing the song of treading on the snow, lasting for thousands of years, passing by in a flash. Who can understand me, even if the world is desolate and the earth grows old? Who is an immortal in the boundless mortal world? Who is the devil? Immortals and demons had no form. If I wish, I could be a ghost, a demon, a deity, or a Buddha. The 3 realms were empty. Beyond the blue skies, June Mo1, what is the cause and effect of the roulette? Laughing at the 3,000 hours, I tell you, unwilling to be a passerby. Sumo had heard this song before. Back then, after Mu Jinghong's death during the Whitebone five-wheel battle, this song had appeared in Sumo's mind. Back then, Sumo had a splitting headache and directly fainted. At this moment, Sumo didn't feel too strange, but Sumo understood that all of this must be inextricably linked to her. Sumo flipped to the 8th page. There were words on the 8th page, too. However, those words were all in the same, small, regular script. The handwriting was neat and elegant. It was not the same handwriting as the one on the 7th page. The Milky Way shattered, and I mistakenly entered a hidden place and was born. Without seeing the galaxy, I miss my homeland for 100 years. He dragged out an ignoble existence for a single thought in his heart. Xiaolang, I only hope that you can return. Today, I found a little beast on the nameless continent. It has the shape of a dragon and an elephant, and is charmingly naive. If Huanger was still here, I would be overjoyed. A hidden place is vast, and the 3 stars are only a corner. Xiaolang, my lifespan is coming to an end, and I can only use the soul concealment technique. Then, I will reincarnate to find you again. Yearning for my husband, I can only go through the mortal world. Today, Wu-Er is willing to reincarnate again in the name of Mu Hongchun, and only asks to see you again. The plum blossoms are scattered, and the fragrance is still the same. The handwriting at the front was very neat, and there was no problem. However, Sumo noticed that the 8 words on the last line were suddenly messed up. It seemed that something had suddenly happened when she was writing the last line. Sumo felt that her mood was getting heavier and heavier. These scattered words couldn't restore everything. However, Sumo always felt a sense of oppression. She flipped to the 9th page. There are not only a few words on the 9th page, but also a picture. It was a strange beast. It had a dragon head, an elephant body, and a giant tail. It was majestic and murderous. Sumo's heart skipped a beat when she saw it. Sure enough, the little white pig, who had been watching everything from the side, directly hummed. Then it jumped onto the Dust Sift Sutra and rubbed its face against the strange beast. That was the adult dragon elephant soul devouring beast. There were small words under the picture. The beast of dragon elephant does not eat the essence, does not grow unless it is an evil soul. 1,000-year-old small beast, a king for 10,000 years. Its combat power was comparable to the mount of the demon lord. These words were elegant and neat, and it seemed that they were not written at the same time as the words in front. Does not eat the essence, does not grow unless it is an evil soul. Sumo smiled bitterly. No wonder the little white pig could not grow up. Since it was young, it was only a little fat occasionally, and then evolve a pair of wings after absorbing the zombie aura in Foamling Ancient Town. It turned out that this fellow would only grow if it swallowed evil souls. A 1,000-year-old one was considered a small beast, and a 10,000-year-old one was a king. It seemed that this little white pig had great potential. At this time, the little white pig no longer rubbed against the picture. The key was that Sumo did not allow it. He was worried that the snot of the little white pig would dirty the sutra. Sumo closed the Dust Sift Sutra, and the words Dragon Elephant Soul Devouring Beast were still on the back cover. As far as Sumo could see, the Dust Sift Sutra was definitely not the work of a single person. In fact, the owner of the Dust Sift Sutra had been a very casual record. Otherwise, there would not have been separate scribbling and scribbling. Based on what he had seen so far, Sumo could not completely understand it. However, he had obtained the sutra, and at the same time, it meant that he had another task. That was to obtain the Dust Sift world and save that green-robed Mu Jinghong. However, Sumo understood that he definitely could not go now. Moreover, that might not be the Mu Jinghong he wanted. Although the green-robed Mu Jinghong's last spiritual message did not say anything, but it should be someone who had mastered the Dust Sift Sutra to be qualified to save him. Therefore, Sumo was still far from it. After calming himself down, Sumo put away the Dust Sift Sutra. Everything needed to be planned in the long run. Sumo had no memory of the 3 realms, and the only cultivators he knew of in the 3 realms were Miao Long, and the city lord of the northern Chill City. Therefore, if Sumo wanted to know more and sort out everything, the best choice was to return to the northern Chill City. Unfortunately, Sumo could not go out now. As soon as he left the cave, he would directly return to the Tianfu City. And as long as Yi Wuhui from the Tianfu City saw him, he would be able to kill him as easily as killing an ant. Sumo did not dare to take the risk. However, he had to go back. After seeing Mu Jinghong, no matter what, Sumo's state of mind had already changed. He could not continue to waste time like this. Just because he had to plan in the long run didn't mean that he could delay it. Sumo thought for a while and decided to wait for 3 days. In this way, Yi Wuhui might not be in that garden, and after Sumo went back, there was a certain chance that he could escape from that garden. As long as he was not discovered by Yi Wuhui immediately, Sumo felt that he had a chance to use the mysterious footwork. Then, the worst result would be him returning to the cave in the soul storage altar. Now, Sumo felt that his footwork was definitely one step away from time to time. He even felt that his footwork could reach 1 star with 1 step, but his level was not high enough. The starry sky in the cave was proof. After thinking about everything, Sumo quietly waited in the cave for 3 days. During those 3 days, apart from cultivating, he also collected some spirit herbs and spirit fruits, which he needed. At the same time, he also let the little white pig familiarize himself with the adult dragon elephant soul leader skeleton. 3 days later, Sumo kept the little white pig and the black feather deity, and then made all the preparations. He was going to take the risk to go back to the Tianfu City. Whoosh! In front of the cave. Sumo took a step and did not stop. 49 steps by 7. 1 step, 1 scenery. Unfortunately, Sumo could not see it clearly. When he took the last step, Sumo's heart was in his throat. He was afraid that he would directly run into Yi Wuhui. Whoosh! Sumo landed on the ground, but his surroundings were as dark as ink. Was it night in the Garden of Guilt? Chapter 386. It was pitch black with no starlight. Sumo was shocked. There was such a dark night in Tianfu City. It was incredible. However, when Sumo quietly spread out his divine sense, he was even more shocked. Because at this time, Sumo found that he was not standing in the garden in Tianfu City, but in an empty valley. Wrong way. This was Sumo's first thought. However, it was not the first time that Sumo had taken those 49 steps, and he had never made a mistake. Thinking back, there should be no problem with each step. But why didn't he return to the garden in Tianfu City? At that moment, Sumo was shocked at first, and then immediately became happy. Because, no matter where he went, it seemed to be better than returning to the garden. For Sumo, at present, his most terrible and powerful enemy was the Tianfu City's Yi Wuhui. But where was this place? Sumo boldly spread out his divine sense to explore the outside. Within a radius of several miles, it was empty. Moreover, the spiritual energy here was extremely thin. Could it be that this was not Tianfu City? Sumo thought. It would be great if he was out of Tianfu City. Sumo's divine sense was still spreading out. However, when it reached a radius of 10 miles, it seemed to encounter an invisible obstacle. Sumo could no longer sense what was happening within 10 li of him. In theory, the divine sense of an immortal cultivator, as long as he wanted, could cover a radius of 10,000 miles. Even a foundation establishment cultivator could cover a radius of 10 miles. However, this was the situation Sumo was in now. He felt that he had entered a black valley with a radius of 10 miles. The surrounding was like a mountain, but not a mountain, like a fog, but not a fog. Unable to reach the sky, unable to reach the ground. Gurgle, gurgle. At this time, Sumo suddenly heard the sound of water nearby. Sumo turned around, and sure enough, not far away. In the darkness, there were a few streams gurgling out. They surged up from the ground like a fountain. However, the fountain was less than a foot tall, and the spring water was brownish-yellow in color and rather muddy. At that moment, a word popped up in Sumo's mind: Yellow Springs. The surroundings were also gloomy. This place really resembled hell. Sumo was pondering which direction she should head in when a gust of wind suddenly blew, and it was a gust of wind. Who? The foul wind was accompanied by a fishy smell as it headed straight for Sumo. Berserk beasts. This dark valley was a little strange. This was because when Sumo sensed the beast pouncing towards her, the beast was already very close to her. Dozens of zhang. For a cultivator at Sumo's level, this distance could only be described as a millimeter. However, that ferocious beast did not seem to be as capable as Sumo. Compared to Sumo, its speed was not fast enough. However, it appeared a little too suddenly. Sumo responded immediately. Everything was not too late. Although she was not familiar with the terrain, Sumo's level was more than enough to deal with this place. Sumo leaned to the right. In the darkness, she saw a ferocious beast charging straight at her. That ferocious beast had a body of golden fur like a snake, a dragon tail like a sharp blade, and 4 claws like a lion's paws. The most special thing about it was that it had 3 dog heads. One was black, one was red, and one was gold. It had 3 heads and 6 eyes, and each eye was emitting a ghostly green glow. Evil ghost hound. Sumo frowned. He had heard of this legendary 3-headed, ferocious beast from hell. Could it be that she had really arrived in hell? Wouldn't that mean she was dead? Sumo thought. His hands are not slow at all. Who? The broken bamboo pole was already in his hand. This broken bamboo pole had accompanied Sumo for thousands of years, and he would use it almost every time he faced off against Sumo. However, if there was one time that he felt the most natural and comfortable, it would be this time. One had to know that before Sumo stepped out of the cultivation world, his bamboo pole was used to beat dogs. He had not beaten a dog for a long time. Sumo was a little emotional. The broken bamboo pole flashed with a green light and went straight for the evil ghost hound. In fact, the evil ghost hound's level was not high. In Sumo's opinion, it was only a spirit beast around the soul transformation realm. Bang! Sure enough, Sumo's attack hit its target. The bamboo pole directly hit the evil ghost hound's waist. This was also the weakest point of the evil ghost hound. Ayo, air. The evil ghost hound was sent 7 to 8 feet away, howling in pain. Sumo had already been merciful, otherwise it would have been split into 2. However, that guy would never appreciate it. From afar, its 3 heads howled at the same time. At that moment, the evil dog was very much like a wolf. Sumo, on the other hand, was calm and unruffled. Spirit beasts of this level, even if there were hundreds or thousands of them, would be useless to him. Ayo, roar. In an instant, Sumo sensed strange noises within a 10-mile radius. The wind blew and the smell of blood assaulted him. At that moment, Sumo sensed at least a few hundred evil ghost hounds charging at him. Could it be a dog kennel with a radius of 10 li? Sumo smiled bitterly in his heart. At the same time, he heard the dogs barking and growling around him. In the darkness, spots of green light floated over. Sumo was surrounded by a group of evil ghost hounds. Sumo raised an eyebrow, because there were really a lot of them. However, they were only at the soul transformation realm. Faintly, Sumo sensed that there seemed to be another evil beast in the distance, slowly approaching. Its footsteps were heavier, and its level was higher. Let's deal with this first. This time, Sumo did not do it himself. Instead, he released the little white pig and the black feather deity. Beasts against beasts, it was suitable. Oomph. The little white pig was very excited as soon as he came out. He probably did not expect his master to let him out so soon. When it saw the vicious dogs around it, it almost drooled. That was the true evil spirit energy. The little white pig had always been a little malnourished. Clang, the black feather deity only neighed. He was much more stable than the little white pig. Oomph. You have the soul-devouring energy. Deity Hong, you eat flesh. There's no need to show mercy. They are all evil beasts, Sumo said. Recently, Sumo had been meeting powerful beings. They were either burying deities, world breakers, or even immortals. Sumo was speechless. Cultivating for 1,000 years and becoming an immortal cultivator, it was reasonable to say that Sumo was already a monster. However, he was not in a good mood recently. Today, he wanted to have a good time here. The little white pig and the black feather deity probably felt the same way. They were all top-notch divine beasts, but they did not have a chance to show off, because their master's opponents seemed to be all kings. Humph! Clang, clang. The little white pig and the black feathered deity were like tigers entering a pack of wolves. The soul transformation realm evil dogs could not withstand a single blow from them. The evil spirit dogs' yellow heads could spit poisonous smoke, red heads could spit venom, and black heads could cast spells. However, none of this could hurt the little white pig and the black feathered deity. The little white pig's silver wings flashed as it harvested. Wherever it passed, countless dog heads fell to the ground. The black feathered deity only had to spit out divine fire to burn an entire area. The little white pig devoured evil spirits, and the black feathered deity devoured flesh. In a moment, hundreds of evil spirit dogs were all killed. The darkness reeked of blood and burnt flesh. However, the little white pig's eyes were shining, and the black feathered deity's eyes were slightly red. They were both very excited. However, the evil spirit dog king was approaching. Thousands of miles outside the Valley of Darkness, there was a city. There were 2 large black words on the city gate tower, 9 Nether. Sumo, who was in the Valley of Darkness, would never have thought that he would not return to Tian Fu, but end up in the 9 Nether. Chapter 387. Inside the dark valley, the stench of blood permeated the air. Sumo stood on the side, calmly watching everything. Little white pig and black feather deity both looked excited and satisfied. The 2 divine beasts were full and comfortable. However, they and Sumo both sensed a higher-level evil beast was already rushing towards them. Boom! Boom! The valley shook and echoed. Whoosh! Affected by the footsteps, the gurgling yellow spring began to spurt. For a moment, it rose several feet high. The entire valley was filled with a thick, fishy smell, almost dispersing the smell of blood. Roar! Roar! Not far away, an evil beast with 3 dog heads howled at the sky. King! That was the king of evil spirit hounds. The 3-headed hound was more than 4 feet tall. Each of its 3 heads was the size of a bucket, its eyes glowing like green lights. Its body was covered in golden fur, several feet long, but there were snake heads growing on the golden fur. Those poisonous snakes were all sticking out their long tongues, looking very terrifying. The 3-headed hound's 4 legs were like elephant pillars, its claws like lion claws, sharp as knives. At the same time, it dragged a long tail, almost identical to a dragon's tail. Venomous saliva dripped from the mouths of the 3 heads, dripping down the corners of their mouths. Roar! Roar! The 3-headed hound stared at Sumo, little white pig, and black feather deity, emitting a ferocious aura as it growled. Undead divine beast. Sumo frowned. Evil spirit hounds, in terms of combat power and rank, were indeed divine beasts, but their appearance was too disgusting. They were born in hell, ugly, and covered in poison. Such divine beasts almost completely represented evil. Very few cultivators would keep them for their own use. Sumo, of course, wouldn't. However, Sumo knew that the king of evil spirit hounds' poison pill was extremely potent, a rare treasure. Since she had encountered it, she had to keep it. Deity Hong, leave its inner core to me. The rest is yours, do it. Sumo ordered. The 2 divine beasts were waiting for Sumo's order. In the face of an undead realm god beast, they could definitely fight it if they joined forces. Not to mention that at the critical moment, Black Feather God Hong could also go berserk to increase his combat power. This time, the little white pig was extremely excited. With a flap of its silver wings, they were actually half a foot longer than usual. His fangs were exposed, and they seemed to be a little thicker. It seemed that the evil spirit aura had helped the little guy grow a little. Clang! Black Feather God Hong was fearless. Although this was an undead dog king, Black Feather Shin Hong felt that he could deal with it as long as he put in a little more effort. There was no need for the little white pig. Woo, roar! However, the ghost hound shook its head and howled in grief and anger. Almost all of its descendants had been slaughtered. Its 3 bloody mouths spewed out streams of black mist. Unfortunately, The black mist had no effect on the little white pig and the black-feathered deity. Who? Little white pig leaped and directly pounced toward the ghost hound. Don't be fooled by the little white pig's small and chubby appearance. But its attacks had always been ruthless. Its fangs did not go for any of the dog's heads, but directly pierced the ghost hound's heart. The ghost hound had 3 heads. Even if one fell, it would not die, but it only had one immortal heart. If the immortal heart was broken, it would die without a doubt. Therefore, the little white pig's attacks were all fatal. However, as the king of the ghost hounds, this beast was not of the same level as before. According to its current level, an undead divine beast was definitely above the little white pig. Roar! The ghost hound twisted its body and directly dodged the little white pig's attack. At the same time, it opened its black head and directly bit at the little white pig. Saliva dripped from the ghost hound's mouth, and there was a fishy smell. Moreover, its teeth were extremely sharp, like an inverted knife. But the little white pig's body was extremely agile. Whoosh! At that moment, the little white pig almost escaped from the ghost hound's mouth. At the same time, its wings directly slashed at the blackhead's eyes. The black feather shenhong also moved. This time, it did not directly spit out divine fire. Instead, it turned into a black light, and its long, sharp beak directly pierced the golden head's forehead. Both the little white pig and the black feather shenhong's attacks were a bit tentative. Whoosh! The ghost hound's red head shook and directly spat out blood-red flames. That was hellfire. Sumo frowned. That flame was equivalent to an undead realm spell. At this time, even an ordinary deity realm late-stage cultivator might not be this ghost hound's match. Unfortunately, the ones it encountered were all special cultivators and divine beasts. As soon as the red flames appeared, the little white pig was a bit wary and immediately retreated. But the black feather shenhong did not even try to dodge. The black light directly penetrated the red flames. Within the infinite worlds, there was almost no fire that could harm the black feather shenhong. Puffed! The vermilion beak directly pierced the ghost hound's golden head. In an instant, the golden light spread, illuminating the entire dark valley. Sumo glanced around. This really was a dark valley. Roar! The ghost hound most likely did not expect such a situation, but it still had 3 heads, and these 3 heads were not divided into the main and secondary. One of them was damaged, but it did not lose the ability to fight at all. Instead, the black feather shenhong's attack had stimulated its ferocity. To be honest, in the tens of thousands of years it had been in the Dark Valley, it had never encountered an opponent of this level. Boom! The black feather shenhong and the little white pig had probably not seen such a fighting style. Even Sumo was stunned, because before the black feather shenhong's beak could be pulled out, that golden head actually exploded in an instant. The ghost hound's 3 heads were very close. In theory, this explosion would cause the most damage to itself. But here was the strange thing. The head exploded, and endless spiritual energy surged like a tide. The golden light was like a blazing sun. Even thousands of miles away, this golden light could be seen. However, its other 2 heads were unscathed. Not only were they unscathed, but they were also casting spells. The black head spewed out black venom. The red head shot out meteor-like fireballs. The most frightening thing was that its golden fur instantly grew wildly. Golden venomous snakes coiled toward it. The 3 attacks were launched in unison. This time, the black feather shenhong was at a disadvantage. The power of the explosion caused the black feather shenhong's body to sway. It was not afraid of the fireballs, but the venom splashed on one of its wings. Sizzle, sizzle. In an instant, black smoke rose. The venom corroded the black feather shenhong's feathers. The black feather shenhong's wings were comparable to divine weapons. This injury was enough to prove the ghost hound's power. In an instant, more than a dozen yellow snakes wrapped around the black feather shenhong's beak and feet, and more of them appeared. The black feather shenhong could not break free. Suemo frowned at the sight. Of course, he could attack at any time, but the little white pig was faster. Hum! Sizzle. The moment the black feather shenhong was trapped, the little white pig had already rushed over to help. Its silver wings swept over the yellow snakes and cut them in half. The snakeheads fell to the ground and instantly turned into yellow smoke. The black feather Shanhong managed to escape. Clang! At that moment, the black feather Shanhong threw its head back and let out a long cry. Its body instantly glowed with a faint red light. In its ultimate form, the black feather Shanhong could fight against dragons and phoenixes. When had it ever suffered such a loss? With a flash of red light, the black feather Shanhong's injured wings rapidly recovered. At the same time, it opened its blood-red beak. Poof! Whoosh! The divine Hong's raging flames instantly swept across the entire valley. The area within a radius of 10 miles was like a furnace. At this moment, outside Juyo City, an elegant young man in white was watching everything in the Black Valley with a smile. Chapter 388. The red flames were like a tide, the light piercing the sky. The entire dark valley was shrouded in divine flames. The Netherhound was already in the air. It wanted to escape. In fact, it did have the ability to do so. After all, the little white pig and the black feather deity were weaker than it in terms of cultivation. The Netherhound had its own advantage in this Netherland. At least it was familiar with its surroundings. But don't forget that there was still Sumo nearby. If Sumo didn't want it to leave, it definitely couldn't. Whoosh! Sumo shook her hand, and a large golden net covered the hound. It was the mixed gold net she got from Yin Feng Yun of Myriad Spirits Sect in Moze. The primordial gold net was originally just a high-level deity tribulation magic treasure. Furthermore, it had been damaged before. However, Suemo had repaired and refined it. Now, it was an early-stage, undying treasure. The mixed gold net was perfect to deal with a Netherhound. One should know that this golden net once covered the ink-colored boat, so it wasn't ordinary. Whoosh! The net covered the sky, but the Netherhound rushed up. It was walking right into the net. Golden light shined. The Netherhound was trapped by the mixed gold net and wanted to escape. Sumo only managed to block it for a moment. The rest was dealt with by the little white pig and the black feather deity. Roar! The remaining 2 heads of the Netherhound howled, but to no avail. The mixed gold net only tightened, even squeezing into the hound's flesh. At this time, the little white pig rushed up. This little guy's fighting strength was at its peak, and its morale was high. Puff! A pair of white fangs pierced into the Netherhound's chest, but there was no sign of blood. The little white pig didn't pull out its fangs, but nailed the hound. Roar! The Netherhound roared and struggled, but it was useless. The golden hairs on its body began to rapidly wither and die. The little white pig looked like a big mosquito on its 4-jean-tall body. But this mosquito was enough to take its life. The little white pig was a dragon elephant soul eater with endless power. Soul devouring. Looking again, the little white pig's fangs were glowing with black light. The ghost hound's soul energy was absorbed by the little white pig. It was pure evil spirit energy, which was the best tonic for the little white pig. That was a beast king. All the ghost hounds he had just devoured couldn't compare to this one. The little white pig's eyes lit up and hummed. At the same time, its body swelled up like a balloon as the soul spirit poured into it. The little white pig turned into a big white pig. The ghost hound's body began to rapidly shrivel up. The 4 green eyes on both of their heads began to dim and lose their light. Once his soul energy dissipated, he would definitely die. As time went by, the little white pig sucked happily. Black Feather God Hong was unwilling to fall behind. He swooped down and opened his long beak. One of the dog heads was torn off and swallowed. He looked extremely ferocious and brutal. The pig and the bird did not interfere with each other. They ate and drank. In less than an hour, the king-level ghost hound was completely destroyed by the 2 of them. However, the little white pig almost turned into a big white elephant. This was absolute gluttony. The black feather god spirit almost turned into a black ostrich. Little white pig and black feathered deity Hong saw satisfaction in each other's eyes after this godly meal. This was also the result of their cooperation. The relationship between the 2 divine beasts had improved. Fortunately, Black Feather God Hong did not forget Sumo's request. In the end, he took out the ghost hound's inner core and gave it to Sumo. It was a khaki-colored inner core, faintly shining. Sumo nodded with satisfaction. This inner core was a highly poisonous thing. Such a thing could kill or save people, depending on how it was used. Sumo put the inner core in the storage bottle for future use. As soon as the king of the ghost hound died, there was no more movement in the entire Dark Valley. At this time, Sumo judged that this 10-li radius was actually a dog kennel. However, these dogs were not ordinary dogs, but ghost hounds. According to legend, ghost hounds are the watchdogs of hell. Did she really go to hell? Sumo was a little puzzled. 49 steps by 7 by 7. Why did it not follow common sense? Sumo thought in her heart, then flew in a direction with the big white pig and black feather god Hong. Now, Sumo's divine sense was limited, so she could only follow her senses. The little white pig's body expanded by tens of times. It seemed that this fellow needed to spend some time. Sigh. Sumo looked at the little white pig and couldn't help but shake her head in pain. The once cute little pet has now become a fat Marshall Tion Pung. It's going to grow ugly. Sumo muttered in her heart. The speed of the three of them was not slow, even if they really ate like a pig. They could cover a radius of 10 li in an instant. However, Sumo led the little white pig and black feather god Hong for about 15 minutes, but they still hadn't reached the exit. Sumo raised an eyebrow. The little white pig and black feather god Hong also felt that something was wrong. They seemed to have been going in circles within a radius of 10 li. Everything in this dark valley seemed to be exactly the same. This place was like a black hole. Furthermore, no matter how high they flew, they seemed to be inside the dark valley. Sumo took out a compass from her pocket. This was something that belonged to the windwheel lineage. When she looked again, the needle on the compass kept moving, unable to indicate any direction. This place was strange. Sumo stopped where he was and narrowed his eyes. He seemed to be trying to find an exit in the darkness. Unfortunately, there was none. This dark valley was actually sealed. There were actually many cultivators watching the slaughter in the dark valley. However, none of them showed themselves. It was better to avoid trouble. After all, those evil dogs were dead. One of the cultivators watching was the white-robed young man outside Nine Serenity City. He had been paying attention to Sumo the moment he appeared in the dark valley. He hadn't expected another cultivator to enter the pure land of Nine Serenities like him. Based on the time, Sumo seemed to have followed him here. However, the white-robed young man knew that Sumo definitely didn't come with him. They had entered through different paths. He was very curious as to how that green-robed cultivator had entered Nine Serenities and fallen into the dark valley so quickly. Under normal circumstances, the cultivators of Nine Serenities City wouldn't go through the dark valley. That was because that path was too difficult and dangerous. However, it was said that all those who escaped from Nine Serenities took that path. However, it was obvious that Sumo didn't come from the city. The white-robed young man couldn't help but laugh when he saw that Sumo couldn't find the exit after walking for a long time. You and I are fated. I'll lend you a hand. That evil spirit dog is a watchdog. You killed the watchdog, so of course you can't come in. The white-robed young man muttered to himself. At the same time, he raised his right hand, extended his index and middle finger, and pointed in the direction of the dark valley. Sumo, who was in the dark valley, suddenly saw a flash of light in front of her left. Let's go. Sumo was very alert, and his body moved instantly. Little white pig and black-feathered deity Hong naturally followed her. Whoosh! There was a flash of light. They felt the scenery in front of them change, and they landed outside the dark valley. That was because they saw a gray, swirling sky. Chapter 389. The sky was gray, and it was unknown how high it was. Sumo looked up and found that the sky here was not only dark, but seemed to be flowing. It was as if there was a special layer of cloud floating in the sky. What was going on? Sumo frowned slightly. Little white pig and black feather deity also had blank expressions. What Sumo could not understand, the two of them naturally could not. Fortunately, they found that there was already a narrow path under their feet. At the end of the path was an ink-colored black hole. If Sumo's guess was correct, then it should be the dark valley they had just walked out of. At this time, the black hole was only 3 zhang away from them. It seemed to be only a few dozen zhang in diameter, but there was a faint smell of blood coming from it. And the other end of the path led to an unknown place. Oomph. Little white pig twisted his huge body and suddenly snorted. Sumo turned around. Just now, he had only been paying attention to the air and under his feet. At this time, he found that there was a stone tablet on the side of the road 7 or 8 zhang away. The stone tablet was only 3 feet tall, and it was slightly tilted. It was carved from a piece of black stone. Sumo moved and arrived in front of the black stone tablet. Light flowed on the stone tablet. Sumo had seen this kind of black stone many times. The broken stone formation in Silent Death Valley, the 5 Wheels profound gate in Northern Region, and the black table and the soul storage altar were all made of this kind of stone. But even now, Sumo did not know the secret of this black stone. There were 4 snow-white words on the black stone tablet in front of them. 9 Hells Realm. 9 Hells Realm. Sumo's expression changed. 9 Hells? Was this really the 9 Hells that was known as a pure land of hell? Sumo did not dare to believe it. There was Tianfu above and 9 Hells below. After coming out of the soul storage altar, Sumo should have returned to Tianfu City. But she actually came in 9 Hells? 9 Hells was tens of thousands of zhang below the bitter will sea. No wonder the sky here was in a flowing and gray state, because the sky here was the bottom of the bitter sea. Both the Tianfu City and the Netherworld City were legendary existences to the people of the Pure Land. Sumo did not know much about Tianfu in 9 Nether. He didn't expect that he would arrive at Tianfu City and Jiuyo City in just a few days. In Tianfu City, Sumo didn't have a chance to take a closer look. Now, Sumo was asked to return to Tianfu City, but Sumo didn't want to go back. The key was that she didn't dare to go back. However, he was rather interested in the 9 Nether Sumo. It was none other than the fact that Sumo had a Netherworld token on her. Sumo flipped her hand, and the black 9th Hell token appeared in her hand. It was given to her by the Palace Lord of the Bliss Palace, Linghu Hahuan, after the battle at the Immortal Temple. At that time, Linghu Hahuan had said that she could enter the 9 Nether City with this token, and that as long as Sumo was in the Pure Land, she could crush the token in times of danger, and someone would definitely help her. Unfortunately, it could only be used once. Sumo had encountered many difficulties, but she could always turn misfortunes into blessings at crucial moments, so she had never thought of using this token. Today, it was only when she arrived at the 9 Nether that Sumo thought of it. The 9 Nether City was much better than the Tianfu City. Thinking of this, Sumo smiled and felt a lot more relaxed. Her safety in the 9 Nether should be guaranteed. Then, she might be able to seek some help in the 9 Nether City. Now, Sumo had 3 goals. The first was to improve her cultivation base so that she could cultivate the Dust Sieve Sutra and go to the Dust Sieve realm to find Mu Jinghong. The second was to return to the Northern Cold City to see what had happened in the Undead City that day. The third was to find a real Yi Wu Hue and give her the 3-inch puppet. The road under her feet might lead to the 9 Nether City. Sumo waved her hand and said to the black feather deity and the little white pig, "This is the 9 Nether City. However, we can't be too ostentatious. You can go back to the ragged bag for now to digest." Oomph. The little white pig couldn't wait to go back, because it felt very tired, and the key was that it had eaten too much, so it had to sleep to digest. The black feather deity wasn't much stronger. Therefore, after hearing Sumo's words, they didn't hesitate at all. One turned into white light, and the other into black light, and directly flew into the ragged bag. Until now, Sumo still didn't understand why the ragged bag was so magical. All his valuables were in the ragged bag. However, from the outside, the ragged bag seemed to be deflated. When he picked it up, it was as if it was empty. A bag could contain a universe. The ragged bag wasn't a storage bag. Therefore, Sumo patted the storage bag, very satisfied. Then, Sumo walked down the narrow path under his feet. Although Sumo had the token of the 9 Nether, he didn't have the map of the 9 Nether. Therefore, Sumo didn't directly ride the wind. It was his first time in the 9 Nether, and he was unfamiliar with everything. Sumo felt that it was better to keep a low profile. Moreover, the Nine Netherland was known as hell, and there might be danger in a single step. The Black Valley just now was proof of that. The evil dog in the Black Valley didn't cause too much trouble for Sumo, but it didn't mean that there was no existence in the Nine Nether that could threaten Sumo's life. Therefore, Sumo was very cautious. However, although he was walking, Sumo's speed wasn't slow. It was almost like teleportation, and he could cross several kilometers with a single step. The winding path was rather winding. There were many poisonous grasses and evil beasts on the sides of the path, but for Sumo, who was in the undying realm, their levels weren't high. Therefore, Sumo would just wave his hand and get rid of the things that were blocking his way, not affecting his journey at all. In the Netherworld realm, Sumo couldn't tell the direction, so he kept walking along that narrow path. Sumo felt that he had walked for about 700 to 800 kilometers. That narrow path directly connected to a main road. The small path he was walking on could be regarded as a fork in the main road. Sumo looked around, and then went on the main road, heading in a certain direction. At this time, Sumo's divine sense could cover a radius of 50 kilometers. Beyond 50 kilometers, it was somewhat blurry. However, he could sense that there seemed to be a towering stone tablet that was more than 300 meters tall 70 kilometers away. Thereupon, Sumo headed straight for that stone tablet. Along the way, Sumo didn't meet a single person. It seemed that the Netherworld realm was empty except for evil beasts. Very soon, Sumo saw that stone tablet. That stone tablet resembled a mountain and was as straight as a sword. However, there were obvious traces of someone polishing it. Sumo stood in front of the stone tablet and raised his head to look at it. On the side of the stone tablet that was facing him, there were 16 snow-white words, each of which was several square meters in size. After entering the Netherworld, you can't turn back. With the original sin on your body, you will never perish. After looking at the 16 snow-white words, Sumo couldn't help but raise his brows. What? You can't go out after entering the Netherworld. What was the original sin? Back then, he had heard about it from Linghu Huan. Sumo didn't care about it, and took a step forward. That was tantamount to crossing that stone tablet. On the other side of the stone tablet, there were large, vermilion words written: gods, demons, immortals, skeletons, and beauties. Your sins are unforgivable. Repent and be saved. Chapter 390. Each of the Scarlet characters was filled with a murderous aura. Every stroke was filled with a deep warning. Sumo looked at the stone tablet, and a strange feeling rose in his heart, because the words on both sides of the stone tablet were very confusing. The stone tablet was erected here to warn people not to enter Joyo City. On the other hand, it was to prevent people who wanted to leave Joyo City from taking that step. It seemed to be a contradiction. Sumo turned his head and looked in the direction of Joyo City. At this moment, Sumo found that his divine sense could cover a radius of thousands of miles. There was such a big difference between the inside and outside of the stone tablet. Sumo was curious, so he casually stepped to the other side of the stone tablet. When he looked up, there were still the same 16 snow-white characters. Nothing had changed. Only Sumo's divine sense was limited and could only cover a radius of 50 miles. Other than that, nothing happened. Sumo frowned. I can come and go as I please. Could it be that the words on this stone tablet were spoken casually? Sumo retreated again, and his divine sense could once again explore thousands of miles away. At this moment, Sumo found that there seemed to be a city 3,000 miles away. That city was very special. However, there were two gloomy black characters on the city gate. Joyo City. Joyo Nether City. That was Sumo's first thought. At the same time, Sumo found that the road under his feet had completely turned into a green stone road. It was neat and spacious. In fact, for real cultivators, they basically walked on the wind, and the mountains, rivers, and lakes were all flat ground. It didn't matter what kind of road they walked on. But here, there was a spacious road. It was just a symbol, and it represented a status. This 3,000-mile greenstone road led directly to Joyo City. Sumo scanned the area with his divine sense. After passing that stone tablet, there didn't seem to be so many poisonous weeds and evil beasts in this area. In the distance, Sumo saw a few cultivators riding on the wind, heading straight for the gates of Juyo City. Sumo thought to herself, "It seems that the stone tablet is a portal." The inside and outside of the stone tablet were like two different regions. Now, perhaps what I'm standing on is the true inner land of the Nine Nether, and what's outside the stone tablet should be considered a wasteland. Juyo City was just around the corner. Of course, Sumo had to go and take a look. Thus, Sumo had a thought. He had already changed his appearance. The 7 senior sisters' face-changing technique was truly marvelous. Sumo was confident that now that he was in the middle stage of the undying stage, not even break world-class cultivators would be able to see through him. Sumo gave herself the face of a young cultivator. That face was extremely ordinary, with almost no special features. He was neither ugly nor handsome. However, this was exactly what Sumo wanted. At the same time, he suppressed his realm to the early stage of the soul transformation realm. He had just entered the Nine Nether, so he was not familiar with everything. Even with the token, Sumo had to be careful. Pretending to be a pig was not necessarily to eat a tiger, but sometimes pretending to be a pig was really safe. However, Sumo did not know the level of the cultivators in the Nine Nether City. He could only speculate that the early stage of the soul transformation realm should be neither too high nor too low, and it should not attract attention. The less people noticed, the safer he would be. After preparing everything, Sumo did not walk anymore. He simply rode the wind and went straight to the gate of the Nine Nether City. Riding the wind was, of course, much faster than teleporting on foot. In the void, there were cultivators flying by from time to time. Sumo secretly observed. The high-level cultivators were at the high stage of the soul transformation realm and the great completion. The low-level cultivators were at the early stage of the soul transformation realm and the great completion of the nascent soul. However, they were all in a hurry. They either rode the wind, rode the sword, or rode on flying treasures. The level that Sumo had set for himself was just right. Along the way, no one talked to Sumo, and Sumo did not take the initiative to contact other cultivators. It was very quiet here. The cultivators were indifferent and peaceful. To a soul transformation realm cultivator, a distance of 3,000 miles was nothing. Soon, Sumo arrived at the gate of the Nine Nether City. At this moment, Sumo carefully sized up the city. In fact, rather than saying that it was a city, it would be better to say that it was just a city gate in front of Sumo. This was because there was no actual city wall around it. On both sides of the city gate, there was endless black light that extended endlessly, and one could not see the end. At the same time, the black light soared into the sky, and its height was unknown. The gate of the Nine Nether City was also very tall and wide. It was at least 300 meters tall and dozens of meters wide. Sumo stood under the city gate and looked at the 2 dark words, Nine Nether. He actually felt a tinge of insignificance. This Nine Nether City was indeed extraordinary. Standing under the city gate, Sumo paused for a while. As for the cultivators beside him, they didn't stop at all and directly entered through the wide city gate. There were no cultivators guarding the gate at all. This was like a free city. Sumo did not dare to stay for too long, lest he caused unnecessary trouble. Thereupon, he also soared into the sky and passed through the city gate. However, the moment he passed through the gate, Sumo felt something similar to a spirit sense sweep over his body. However, that sweep didn't cause any abnormalities. Just like the other cultivators, Sumo easily passed through the gate of the Nine Nether City. It seemed that the gate wasn't just for show. It should have some sort of screening function, but since Sumo was a cultivator that met the requirements, he didn't trigger the mechanism. As soon as he passed through the gate, Sumo felt that the atmosphere in this place had changed. When Sumo fell into the Black Valley, he could be considered to have entered the Netherworld realm. Along the way, the spiritual chi here was very thin, and it wasn't even comparable to the continent of White Bones. But as soon as he entered the Nine Nether City, the spiritual chi here was very dense. The density of the spiritual chi here was far higher than in other areas, comparable to that of the northern cold city where Sumo stayed. At the same time, Sumo looked around, and he couldn't help but reveal a surprised expression. Because what appeared in front of his eyes was a flourishing world. Sumo scanned the area with his spirit sense and discovered that there was everything within a radius of several thousand kilometers. Mountains, rivers, forests, towns. This place shouldn't be called a city, but a world. And the places that Sumo scanned were probably just the tip of the iceberg. At this time, Sumo also realized that there wasn't the word city on the gate, only the word netherworld. Perhaps the netherworld city was somewhere else. There was a world hidden under the sea of bitterness. The netherworld realm. This was truly unimaginable. Sumo stood in a daze inside the gate, somewhat shocked. There was a small town several dozen kilometers away. Therefore, Sumo had no choice but to head toward it. He wanted to have a simple understanding of the netherworld realm first. At this time, a young man wearing white clothes was sitting in a restaurant in that small town. The young man was holding a cup with one hand and drinking by himself. At this time, he looked in the direction that Sumo came from, and the corner of his mouth rose as he muttered to himself. He unexpectedly passed through the netherworld life and death gate without causing any disturbance. It seems that this guy has an extraordinary background and is also someone who has experienced life and death. Chapter 391. In the blink of an eye, Sumo arrived at the entrance of the small town. The small town wasn't big, but it was very lively and bustling. There was no sunlight here, but it was slightly bright. There seemed to be a lot of indescribable, shiny substances in the air. Actually, after passing through the gate of the netherworld city, Sumo discovered that the color of the sky here was different from the outside world. This place wasn't dark at all. High up in the sky, there seemed to be moving clouds, but they were silvery white. Sumo thought to himself, is it possible that this place is the clearest part of the sea of bitterness? But shouldn't the bottom of the sea be dark? In short, the netherworld realm was very mysterious and couldn't be judged with common sense. At the entrance of a small town, there was a decorated archway with 3 big ancient characters written on it. Netherworld Town. Netherworld Town? Sumo smiled inwardly. This is the first town in the netherworld city. The name Netherworld Town is quite appropriate. On a long street in the netherworld town, there were many shops and stalls on both sides of the street. There were also a lot of cultivators coming and going. Except for children, there didn't seem to be any mortals in this town. The most common ones were cultivators of the Foundation establishment realm. It should be said that this was a celestial town. Sumo observed carefully and discovered that the clothes of the cultivators here were quite simple and unadorned, unlike other places in the Pure Land. Sumo secretly used a technique and quietly changed his green robe into the style of the cultivators in the town. At the same time, Sumo also noticed that the style of the buildings in this town was also quite different from other places in the Pure Land. Simple and unadorned. Sumo's impression of the buildings in the netherworld realm was still the same. In short, Sumo had a feeling that he had returned to a rather ancient time in the Pure Land. He only knew and understood a lot of things about this town from ancient books or the inheritance of the Windwheel faction. Ancient and mysterious. Sumo stepped into the netherworld town. There were many stalls on both sides of the street with medicinal pills, talismans, magical treasures, and so on. Sumo walked slowly and carefully looked at the things on both sides. There was a dazzling lineup of all kinds of things. Then he stopped in front of a stall that sold pills. Soul-preserving pill, 60 supreme-grade spiritual stones. Dust-parting pill, 80 top-grade spirit stones. God-destroying pill, 80 top-grade spirit stones. Purple soul pill, 100 top-grade spirit stones. Immortal burial god powder, 150 supreme-grade spirit stones. When he first glanced at the prices, Sumo thought he was seeing things. Sumo had just concocted a few of these 2 kinds of elixirs not too long ago. That was a top undead realm medicinal pill, which was quite precious to Sumo. But here, it was only 80 top-grade spirit stones. This was absolutely the price of cabbages. Forget about undying grade medicinal pills. Even deity tribulation grade medicinal pills on the chaotic gods continent were worth more than this. And on the bone continent, soul transformation grade medicinal pills were priceless, let alone undying grade medicinal pills. Sumo secretly sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed that she had not traveled enough, and her horizons were not broad enough. In terms of the price of medicinal pills, the netherworld realm was simply a paradise for cultivators. For Sumo, 100 supreme-grade spirit stones was like a drop in the ocean. Thereupon, Sumo's heart slightly moved. The person selling the medicinal pills was a young, nascent soul cultivator. When he saw Sumo standing in front of his stall, he knew that a buyer had arrived. Smiling, he said, "Senior, may I know what kind of medicinal pills you are looking for?" "The medicinal pills of our Purple Jade Pavilion are absolutely cheap and of high quality. However, we only accept supreme-grade spirit stones. You can't exchange for anything else," the nascent soul cultivator added. Sumo faintly smiled. The last thing he lacked were supreme-grade spirit stones. In the southern territory of the chaotic gods continent, Sumo had a mine. However, he didn't say what kind of medicinal pills he wanted to buy. Instead, he glanced at the medicinal pills on the stall. There were no less than 10 kinds of medicinal pills on the stall. Among them, there were more than 10 at the undead realm and above. Sumo thought to himself, could it be that the Purple Jade Pavilion is a sect that specializes in refining medicinal pills? Otherwise, how could a small stall like this be so big? Of course, it was impossible for Sumo to buy all of these medicinal pills. Even if he had the financial resources to do so, Sumo still understood the principle of not showing off one's wealth. Moreover, he had just entered the netherworld realm and didn't know much about it. Therefore, he wouldn't rashly purchase a large number of medicinal pills. The violet soul pill and the eternal god-burying powder were both deity-burying pills. Of course, Sumo didn't have any medicinal pills of this level on him. These two kinds of medicinal pills could help a cultivator that had just advanced to the deity-burying realm quickly stabilize their realm and build an eternal immortal foundation. Although they were both low-level deity-burying realm medicinal pills, they were still out of reach for the current Sumo. Without the pill recipes, Sumo only had the soul-storing cauldron and the immortal cave, the Flower Valley. Therefore, Sumo's gaze paused on the two medicinal pills for a moment. That nascent soul cultivator's ability to read people's expressions wasn't ordinary. He immediately smiled and said, "The violet soul pill and the eternal god-burying powder are both specially made by our Purple Jade Pavilion. Even if you don't need them, you can give them to a powerful elder in your sect or clan to show your filial piety." Sumo was only a soul transformation realm cultivator at this time. Therefore, she didn't need those medicinal pills. Therefore, that nascent soul cultivator thought that Sumo wanted to give them to a cultivator of a higher realm. Gifting medicinal pills was very popular in the netherworld realm. Sumo nodded and smiled. "There are indeed some elders in my clan who might need them. However, can you guarantee the quality of these medicinal pills?" "Senior, don't worry." The nascent soul cultivator patted his chest and said, "The medicinal pills produced by the Purple Jade Pavilion are definitely good. The ingredients for our medicinal pills come from the northern underworld realm. That place is the #1 deep-sea hunting ground of the netherworld realm, and our Purple Jade Pavilion has its own area. We can hunt and kill many strange beasts of the deep sea. Therefore, Purple Jade Pavilion's medicinal pills are well known in the netherworld realm, and they are protected by the whole world. If something happens in the future, you can apply for a compensation from any branch of the Purple Jade Pavilion in the netherworld realm." The nascent soul cultivator was very eloquent. Purple Jade Pavilion's medicinal pills were well known in the netherworld. Unfortunately, Sumo had just arrived here and hadn't heard of them. Moreover, the northern underworld realm sounded like a very famous place in the netherworld realm. Apply for compensation from the whole world. Sumo didn't remember when or where she had heard these words before. However, he didn't ask too much. In any case, several hundred top-grade spirit stones didn't matter to Sumo. Thereupon, Sumo didn't say anything else and directly said, one purple soul pill, and one packet of undying spirit-burying powder. All right. After hearing this, the nascent soul cultivator quickly took out an ordinary pill storage box and put the medicinal pills inside. Sumo flipped her hand and took out a storage bag. There were exactly 250 top-grade spirit stones inside. She handed over the money in one hand and the goods in the other. Sumo took the medicinal pill and scanned it with her divine sense. There was no problem. The nascent soul cultivator took the storage bag and scanned it with his divine sense. There was no problem either. However, a hint of surprise flashed through his eyes. Because the top-grade spirit stones in the storage bag were definitely not from the Netherworld realm. The Netherworld realm didn't produce this kind of spirit stones. Someone from outside the Netherworld realm? What was the origin of this green-robed soul transformation realm cultivator? The nascent soul cultivator of the Purple Jade Pavilion had many questions in his mind. The white-robed youngster in the restaurant not far away was watching everything with a smile. Chapter 392. The center of the Pure Land world was the bitter Samsara Sea. Outside the bitter Wheel Sea were the White Bone Continent, the Chaotic God Continent, and the Ancient Shoe Continent. The three of them formed a circle to protect him. In terms of land area, the bitter Wheel Sea was equivalent to the sum of 3 continents. If one were to look at the Pure Land from the outside, the first thing that would enter one's eyes would be the vast ocean. The Netherworld realm was 108,000 meters below the Bitter Wheel Ocean. What Sumo saw was just a corner of the 9 Nether. The Netherworld City was the center of the Netherworld realm, but it wasn't the whole place. The 9 Underworlds was rather special. It was very different from the other continents of the Pure Land. This was something Sumo did not understand. Therefore, he took out a top-quality spirit stone that didn't belong to the Netherworld realm. The top-grade spirit stones of the Pure Land continent were pure white, while the spirit stones of the Netherworld realm were black. This green-robe cultivator was someone from outside the 9 Underworlds. The nascent soul cultivator of the Purple Jade Pavilion instantly came to a conclusion. However, he remained calm and collected the spirit stones. "Senior, the spirit stones are correct. Is there anything else you need?" The nascent soul cultivator asked with a smile. "I don't need it for the time being." Sumo also put away the pills and continued to walk forward. The nascent soul cultivator looked at Sumo's back and frowned slightly. Sumo's mind was on other things in town. He didn't pay attention to the nascent soul cultivator at all. However, the white-clothed youth in the restaurant saw that the nascent soul cultivator packed up his stall after a while and hurriedly left. "You think you found a fat sheep?" Hee. The white-robed youth looked at the back of the nascent soul cultivator and drank the wine in his cup. At this time, Sumo had entered a grocery store. There were quite a lot of items in this grocery store. However, there were many things that Sumo didn't really recognize. "Sir, what would you like to order?" The shop assistant was only a young man in the early stage of core formation. With this level of cultivation, he could basically be considered a commoner in this small town. As for Sumo's realm, he couldn't see it at all. However, this shop assistant only cares about selling goods. Even if an immortal comes, I will still treat him the same way. Therefore, he didn't address him as senior. It was easier to just call him guest. "I want a map," Sumo said. "What kind of map do you want?" The Netherworld realm was divided into 9 parts. Outside the 9 parts was the boundless earthly sea of suffering. This shop belongs to the Qian Palace department, and the largest and most detailed map in the shop is the Qian Palace map. "It's more than enough for you to travel around the Qian Palace," the waiter explained. "All right, then we'll need a map of the Qian Palace." Sumo silently noted down the waiter's words. He had heard about the 9 nether tribes from Linghu, Hehuan, and Guanxiong. However, he wasn't sure what it referred to. From the looks of it, the Netherworld realm was divided into 9 parts. Outside the 9 parts was the sea. However, it was called the Earth Sea. He was in the Qian Palace division. Based on their names, the 9 divisions of the 9 Nether seemed to be divided by the 9 palaces. As Sumo pondered, the shop assistant handed her a map. Originally, Sumo was going to duplicate it with a jade slip. However, He didn't expect the shop assistant to hand over a map made of animal skin. This surprised Sumo a lot. In Sumo's mind, animal skin maps should have long since been replaced by the divine sense maps in jade slips. The Netherworld realm gave Sumo a primitive feeling in many aspects. Customer, this map costs 300 middle-grade spirit stones, the waiter said. Fine. Sumo was a bit surprised. A map cost 700 middle-grade spirit stones? It was a bit expensive. However, the prices of goods in the Netherworld realm were different. Sumo didn't lack money. Therefore, he didn't waste any time and took out 700 middle-grade spirit stones to pay the bill. The middle-grade spirit stones in the Pure Land and the Netherworld realm were the same. These spirit stones didn't arouse the waiter's suspicion. Then, Sumo unfolded the map. The animal skin wasn't big. It was only a square foot. Sumo didn't know what kind of animal skin it was, but what surprised Sumo was that the map was dynamic. East, west, north, and south were clearly marked. Sumo's current position was at the center of the map. Along with the changes in Sumo's gaze and divine sense, the area displayed on the map would also change. She could see a whole area within a square inch. This animal skin map was very mysterious. No wonder it was so expensive. Unfortunately, Sumo couldn't find the Netherworld city on the map. Thereupon, Sumo furrowed her brows and asked, "Little brother, how far is the Netherworld city from here?" The Netherworld city? The waiter was a bit surprised. When the people of the Netherworld talked about the Netherworld city, they didn't use the word Netherworld. They called it Nether City or Holy City. However, the waiter didn't think too much about it. After all, everyone had different ways of speaking. Soon after, he said with a smile, "Nether City? That's the Central Palace Department. The distance from here to the Central Palace Department is several million kilometers. Hee, I won't hide it from you. I've never left the Central Palace Department in my life." "Oh, hee. Sumo laughed. She felt that this young man was very honest. "However, I have a map of the Central Palace Department here, but it's an old item. It was mortgaged by a guest many years ago. If you need it, I can pay it to you. If you need it, I can sell it to you for only 300 mid-grade spirit stones." The waiter seized any opportunity to peddle. "All right, I'm preparing to travel to the Central Palace Department." Sumo agreed readily. "Pay the spirit stones, get the map." The map was a piece of animal skin, and it was indeed very old. However, when Sumo unfolded the animal skin map, the markings on it were still clear. However, Sumo's location was not shown. Sumo noticed that there was a black circular mark at the center of the Central Palace Department map. Beside it were 4 big words: Netherworld City. Central Palace Department, Netherworld City. It was a great gain for Sumo to figure out the geographical location. "Thank you, little brother." Sumo put away the 2 maps. She didn't need anything else and directly left the shop. At this moment, Sumo felt a little relieved. With the map in his hand, he could at least determine the direction of his next move. The small town was always lively. Bursts of wine fragrance wafted in the air. Sumo couldn't help but look sideways. There was a restaurant next to it. Since he was in the Netherworld, he should taste the delicacies of the Netherworld. Moreover, Sumo didn't know how long it had been since he had a formal meal. The last time he went to a restaurant was when he and Yiwuhui went to the Nanhua prefecture of the undead nation to eat and drink. Thinking about it, if he had really been in a coma for 3 years, it would have been 3 or 4 years ago. Where did Yiwuhui go? I haven't heard from him since we parted ways outside the Soon Mountain Villa of the undead nation. Sumo sighed inwardly. In the North Cold City, he often drank with Guan Xiong, and the last time Sumo ate was the bowl of refreshing soup in the Tianfu city. At that time, Sumo had paid attention to that bowl of soup, but he didn't find anything unusual. Later, when he found out that Yiwuhui was a fake, he was also worried. Fortunately, nothing happened. In the restaurant, there were many customers. The first floor was full. The waiter directly led Sumo to the second floor. The second floor was quiet, and there were a few private rooms. As soon as Sumo went upstairs, he saw the young man in white who was drinking alone by the window. The young man was only 17 or 18 years old. His clothes were as white as snow. His face was handsome, and he was in high spirits. Sumo glanced at the young man in white casually. However, the young man in white gave him an extremely familiar feeling. However, Sumo was sure that he had never seen this young man in his previous life. Come, wonderfulbookhouse.com. Chapter 393. His clothes were as white as snow, untainted by a speck of dust. The youth sitting in front of the window was warm under the sunlight, giving people a feeling that they could forget their worries just by looking at him. Early stage deity tribulation. His realm is actually the same as mine. Sumo thought to herself. Of course, he couldn't keep staring at that youth, so he found another empty table and sat down. The waiter called Sumo to order. Unfortunately, Sumo basically didn't know what the dishes on the menu were. He simply asked the waiter to serve 4 of the restaurant's specialties and a pot of good wine. The waiter didn't waste time and went to prepare. The second floor gradually became more and more customers. Most of them were nascent soul-level cultivators and above. There were soul, transformation, and deity tribulation cultivators, but not a single undead cultivator. Sumo secretly spread out her divine sense. It seemed like the highest level cultivator in the entire secluded town was middle stage deity tribulation. As the number of cultivators increased, she naturally heard all kinds of voices. This was also the reason why Sumo chose a restaurant to rest for a while. There were too many people here, and she would most likely hear some information she needed. Sumo needed to understand this world. Senior brother, let's set off tomorrow. At this moment, a cultivator who had just sat down said. That cultivator was middle stage soul transformation, about 20 years old. He wore a short robe and looked rather capable. Coming with him was a middle-aged cultivator, also middle stage soul transformation. Yes, we'll set off tomorrow. We've accomplished our goal this time, so we can go back now. Moreover, the 8th of August is the opening of the tide, so we must hurry back. Yes, the young junior brother smiled. I'm also afraid that we won't make it in time for the opening of the tide. If that's the case, it won't be worth it. The opening of the tide every 100 years is a grand occasion for our Qian Palace. There's still a month. We'll definitely make it in time, but we should set off early to avoid any delays. The middle-aged senior brother said, This time, if we're lucky, we'll be able to enter the late-stage deity tribulation. I hope so. The young junior brother sighed. We've been stuck at middle-stage deity tribulation for more than 500 years. The middle-aged senior brother also shook his head and sighed. Sumo had been listening to the conversation between the two cultivators. He had been stuck at the middle stage of the deity tribulation realm for 500 years. It was a feeling that Sumo had never experienced before. It had been about 1,200 years since he started cultivating, and 1,000 of those years were spent drunk. 200 years from a cultivation boy to the middle stage undead realm. If Sumo were to say it out loud, those 2 soul transformation intermediate stage experts would probably be angered to death. On the 8th day of the 8th month, the Qian Palace opened its floodwaters. This was the main information Sumo extracted. From the conversation between the 2 brothers, he could tell that it was a once-in-100-years event, and it was also an opportunity. However, they did not mention the specific location. At this time, Sumo's food and wine had already been served. Each of the 4 side dishes was exquisite. The waiter reported the names of the dishes: braised white ice fish, stewed sea spirit dragon, stir-fried ginseng slices, mixed 5-color herb salad. Judging from the names and the dishes, they were all seafood, live off the mountain and live off the sea. Sumo understood this at the time. Nether Passage Town was at the edge of Universe Palace. From the looks of it, it was relatively close to the earthly sea. However, from what the 2 brothers said, the place where the tide would start was very far away. Otherwise, there was no need to set off a month in advance. Sumo pondered and tasted the braised white ice fish. Sumo had never eaten any of these things before. As soon as the fish entered her mouth, Sumo felt that it was cool and smooth. Moreover, the meat was delicious and chewy. At the same time, wisps of spiritual qi entered her danci. Delicious! Sumo couldn't help but praise it. Immediately after, he tried the other 3 dishes. Each of the 4 dishes had its own special characteristics, and they complemented each other and were full of spiritual chi. Sumo nodded, very satisfied. The spirit food of the netherworld realm was indeed extraordinary. Honestly speaking, the spirit food of the Pure Land continent couldn't compare to the delicacies of the netherworld realm. Sumo picked up the wine pot and poured himself a cup. The color of the wine was slightly red, resembling grape juice. However, it was very fragrant. Sumo first took a small sip. In an instant, her mouth was filled with fragrance, and it wasn't spicy at all. This wine should be considered a fruit wine. Sumo pondered in his heart. What kind of wine is this? Sumo asked, "Dear customer, is this your first time in Serenity Town?" This wine is called Soul Dragon wine. Its main ingredient is the blood of a sea soul dragon, and then a bit of netherworld 100 fruits fermented for 7 months. The waiter replied with a smile. This is a specialty of our Serenity Town. Many customers think that this is a fruit wine, but they are completely wrong. This should be sea soul wine. However, the sea soul wine of our Serenity Town is brewed with a special method. However, the waiter was very proud, but his words were interrupted. "Waiter, give me another one. 5 liters of sea soul wine." The one who spoke was the white-clothed young man sitting by the window. Wait a moment. The waiter hesitated for a moment, but still turned around and gave the white-clothed young man another one. 5 liters of wine. "Dear customer, please enjoy your drink." That the waiter stood in front of the white-clothed young man and did not leave immediately. He hesitated for a moment before plucking up his courage and said, "Little brother, you drank 7 liters. 7 liters?" Sumo did not react when she heard that. He could drink 7 liters of wine. However, the other customers on the second floor, including the senior and junior brothers who spoke just now, could not help but look at the white-clothed young man in surprise. "Sea soul wine, 1.5 liters does not leave the town." This was the warning of the sea soul wine. One must know that immortal wine was different from ordinary wine. Immortal wine absorbed spiritual energy, and the spiritual energy of the sea soul blood was very special. A little nourishing spiritual energy, but a lot of it was poison power that exploded the body. 1.5 liters of sea soul wine was the limit for ordinary cultivators. Even some cultivators with special physiques would not exceed 2.5 liters. This had nothing to do with realm. Sea soul dragon blood was a special kind of poison. It was not something that could be neutralized by realm. That white-clothed young man actually drank 7 liters, but he did not seem to be affected. If it was an ordinary cultivator, he would have died from the poison. "Oh," that white-clothed young man smiled. "Brother waiter, what's wrong with 7 liters? Are you afraid that I won't pay for the wine?" No. The waiter shook his head slowly and said awkwardly, "Brother, what are you talking about? Not to mention that you are a great cultivator. How can you be short of wine money? Even if it is inconvenient for you, it is our honor to have you come to our restaurant. A few liters of wine is what we should show our respect. I am worried that the after effects of the sea soul wine will come back. Hee. The white-clothed young man smiled and said, "Brother waiter, don't worry. I know that one. 5 liters does not leave the town. However, my physique is special, and I'm not afraid of blood poison. Don't worry. No matter how good the wine is, no matter how greedy I am, I won't lose my life, right?" That's right. Then please enjoy." The waiter scratched his head. "To say the least, if something really happens, it has nothing to do with your restaurant. I'll pay for the wine first." The white-clothed young man smiled, then flipped his hand and took out a spirit stone. "A top-grade spirit stone is enough. If there are any leftovers, you can have it." A top-grade spirit stone was enough to eat 10 times in this restaurant. The other cultivators all sighed at the white-clothed young man's forthrightness. Enough. The waiter was so surprised that he hurriedly took it. Thank you, brother. This is too much. At that moment, Sumo's brows furrowed slightly, because he saw that the spirit stone that the white-clothed young man took out was as black as ink. Moreover, When a white-clothed young man took out the spirit stone, he looked at him meaningfully. Sumo naturally remembered that he just bought the elixir with a completely different top-grade spirit stone. Chapter 394. Top-quality spirit stones were the crystallization of spiritual chi and were quite rare. Top-quality spirit stones in the Pure Land were basically pure white. If there were any impurities, they would have a light yellow color. However, Sumo had never seen or heard of a black top-quality spirit stone. The other cultivators in the restaurant didn't show any objection to the black spirit stone. This meant that black top-quality spirit stones were relatively common in the Netherworld realm. Sumo also wondered if there were multicolored top-quality spirit stones in the Netherworld realm. However, he felt that the look in that youngster's eyes was somewhat meaningful. It seemed to be reminding him. However, this could only be regarded as a small interlude. Sumo remained calm and continued to enjoy the food and wine. Although he used a special spirit stone just now, it seemed that nothing unexpected had happened so far. Besides, with Sumo's undying realm cultivation, even if something really happened, he could deal with it. After paying the spirit stones, the white-robed youngster continued to drink and didn't look at Sumo again. Instead, he calmly looked outside the window as if there was always something fun going on outside. In the restaurant, many cultivators have been observing the white-robed youngster. After drinking 7 liters of sea soul wine, his expression remained the same. That white-robed youngster was definitely an extraordinary person. Many of the cultivators present seemed to be waiting to see if something would happen to him. However, the white-robed youngster didn't pay any attention to them and continued to enjoy the wine and the scenery. 1 liter, 2 liters, 3 liters. In just an hour, another 3 liters of sea soul wine had been drunk. This time, the white-robed youngster didn't ask for more wine. Instead, he calmly went downstairs. It didn't look like he had drunk 5 liters of immortal wine at all. The cultivators in the restaurant were amazed. Sumo had also been paying attention to the white-robed youngster, but she didn't find anything special or unusual about him. Senior brother, the world is really big, and there are all kinds of strange things. That youngster is really amazing. He drank 5 liters of sea soul wine and didn't show any signs of abnormality. The young cultivator who was talking about the beginning of the Qian Palace said, "Yes." The middle-aged senior brother nodded. "Today, my horizons have been broadened. Hee. Back then, I saw a late-stage deity tribulation realm expert drink 5 liters of sea soul wine in this netherworld town. At that time, his expression was also the same. I didn't expect to see an even more powerful expert today," said an aged late-stage soul transformation cultivator. "Senior, you're quite knowledgeable. I've never seen anything over 1.5 kilograms, another perfected nascent soul cultivator said. "I've seen a deity tribulation cultivator who drank about 2 liters. Unfortunately, before he could leave the town, he collapsed at the end of the street. Then, after recuperating for more than a month, he almost died from the poison," a thin man in the corner said. "That youngster might be lying at the entrance of the town in a while." Ha ha ha. The customers in the restaurant found a common topic and couldn't help but laugh. Whether one could drink the sea soul brew or not had nothing to do with one's realm. The main factor was one's physique. If a core formation cultivator had a special physique, they could also compete with a deity tribulation realm cultivator in terms of alcohol tolerance. Therefore, this could be considered a pleasure point for low-level cultivators. Sumo didn't say anything and just laughed along with him. Otherwise, he would seem special. That young man has left the town. At this moment, another cultivator by the window said, "His footsteps are light and his chi and blood are stable. He is no different from his usual state." Hey, amazing. Is it possible that our Palace of Qian is about to start the tide? The people with special abilities from the other divisions also came to watch the show. Huh. The tide is a grand occasion, a gathering of experts. Indeed, I'm also planning to go to the secret realm of the ancient money to take a look. If it's just a small opportunity, it's enough for me to advance to the deity tribulation realm. I've been stuck at the peak of the soul transformation realm for more than 700 years. The atmosphere in the restaurant gradually became more and more lively as everyone kept talking. The topic of the conversation gradually shifted from the white-robed youngster to the tide of the palace of Qian. Sumo listened more and less, and finally understood what the tide of the palace of Qian was all about. The Netherworld realm was mainly divided into two parts, the inland and the earthly sea. The inland part was the 9 divisions, and the earthly sea was outside the 9 divisions. For the pure land, the Netherworld realm was more like a core, and the so-called tide of the earthly sea was the bitter samsara earthly sea's tide. However, the tide of the bitter samsara earthly sea was completely different from the tide of other continents. Apart from the Central Palace Division, the 9 divisions of the Netherworld would have a tide of 100 years. Each tide would last for 9 months. Apart from the Central Palace Division, the rest of the 9 divisions were close to the sea, and the coastline was very long. Every one of them had a so-called secret realm. This secret realm was like a special place where the tide of the Netherworld was rising. Every 100 years, the secret realm would open, and the tide would fall from the sky, rolling and rolling. It could reach a height of thousands of zhong, resembling a tidal peak. However, they wouldn't rush into the interior of the Netherworld and cause a disaster. On the contrary, the cultivators of the Netherworld could take advantage of this tide to enter the earthly sea. During the 9 months of the tide of the Netherworld, the cultivators of the Netherworld could come and go at any time. However, there was a limit to the level of the cultivators that could enter the secret realm. The lowest realm was the soul transformation realm, and the highest was the undying realm. Cultivators below the soul transformation realm, as well as cultivators above the undying realm, couldn't enter. If they didn't enter, they would be directly thrown out, and if they didn't, they would be directly killed. There were countless treasures and opportunities in the earthly sea. As for what they could obtain, it depended on their luck. Those with small luck would obtain some natural treasures, and those with big luck might find an inheritance and advance to the next realm. In short, the tide of each tribe was a great opportunity. For the cultivators of the Netherworld, it was a rare chance to gain experience. However, the time of the tide of each tribe was different. Every 100 years, on average, there would be a tribe that would open its tide every 12 to 13 years. Therefore, there were some cultivators who were willing to follow the trend and continuously cultivate. They would travel between the 8 tribes without stopping. However, whether it was the best way to cultivate or not, and whether it was worth it or not, was hard to determine. It was rumored that there were really cultivators that broke through the deity burial realm and entered the eternal realm. However, such cultivators were very rare as phoenix feathers and Chilan horns. However, there were also cultivators who continuously chased after the tide, always doing nothing, wasting their time. Most of the cultivators of the Netherworld would only participate in the tide of their tribe every 100 years. But even so, there would be tens of thousands of cultivators every time a tribe opened its tide. What if they came across a great opportunity? After all, cultivating was too difficult. The place where the Qian Palace tribe opened its tide was called the Secret Realm of the Ancient Coin. The Secret Realm of the Ancient Coin was actually 150,000 kilometers away from the Netherworld town, and there didn't seem to be any large-scale teleportation formations in the Netherworld realm. Therefore, cultivators would usually travel in advance. 9 months wasn't a long time for cultivators. Everyone was willing to arrive early so that they would have more time to look for opportunities. The 7 or 8 cultivators in the restaurant were all preparing to go to the secret realm of the ancient coin to try their luck. In the restaurant, there was a feast. Sumo understood most of the situation and decided to go and take a look. Since he was going to the Netherworld City, he would pass by the secret realm of the ancient coin. Thereupon, the feast was over. Sumo paid the bill and went downstairs, leaving the small town and heading in the direction of the ancient coin town. Chapter 395. The ancient coin realm was located in the southeast of the Qian Palace tribe. According to the beast skin map in Sumo's hands, Nether Passage Town was located in the northeast of the Qian Palace tribe. The distance between Nether Passage Town and the ancient money mystic realm was basically a straight line. However, this straight line was 300,000 li long. In between, there were mountains, rivers, forests, barren valleys, grasslands, and all kinds of terrain. After all, 300,000 miles was not a short distance. It was a good thing that Sumo now had a map in her hands. Almost every place in the Qian Palace was marked, so she wouldn't get lost. Sumo didn't take out her White Lotus seat. Instead, she took out the Sky Wheel flying ship. The White Lotus platform was a little too eye-catching. It was usually a magic tool that would only be refined at the second stage of cultivation. The Sky Wheel flying ship was more suitable for his current identity as an early-stage soul transformation cultivator. The 8th day of the 8th month was the day of the beginning of the tide. With the speed of the Sky Wheel flying ship, it would only take a few days to reach the ancient coin secret realm. Therefore, Sumo was not in a hurry to leave. He boarded the Sky Wheel flying ship, but its speed was not fast. There were some places along the way that Sumo didn't mind carefully observing. According to the time of the Netherworld realm, it was noon when he left the Netherworld town. Sumo had been flying for 2 hours. After crossing a large river, there was a range of mountains in front of them. The mountains were all yellow in color. The mountain was steep and rather dangerous. Among them, 2 mountain peaks stood side by side like 2 doors. The space between them was no more than 1,000 feet. Mount Xianwang, Double Sword Peak. There were markings on Sumo's map. This was a wondrous place of the Qian Palace tribe. It was rumored that the 2 peaks here were originally one complete mountain. Later on, after a great battle between immortals, this mountain peak was split into 2, resulting in its current state. There was an immortal sect in Xianwang Mountain called the Xianwang sect. The Profound Yellow sect was a famous first-rate sect in the Qian Palace. It was said that the strongest ancestor in the sect was already at the God-burying realm. However, this had nothing to do with Sumo. Sumo didn't want to stay here any longer. After passing Mount Xianwang, there was an immortal city called Northern Qian. It was the Qian Palace tribe's #1 immortal city in the northern region. Sumo paused for a moment at this thought. Thus, Sumo steered the Sky Wheel flying ship forward. The Twin Sword Peak, on the other hand, was tall and straight. There were many strange plants growing on the cliff. Like a crouching tiger, like a spiraling dragon. Sumo was in a relaxed mood. He sat cross-legged on the Sky Wheel flying ship and meditated. The spiritual chi in the 9 underworld was more abundant, and it was suitable for cultivation. Currently, Sumo's cultivation was at the middle stage of the undead realm, and there was still a long way to go before she reached the late stage. However, Sumo's soul suddenly alerted her. Along the way, Sumo had only spread her divine sense within a radius of 100 miles, otherwise, it would have consumed too much of it. However, at this moment, 3 black shadows suddenly appeared within the range of Sumo's divine sense. Deity Tribulation Cultivator? Sumo's heart skipped a beat. Almost at the same time, 3 beams of sword light shot towards Sumo from 3 different directions in the void. Chi-chi, the sound of something tearing through the air, was ear-piercing. It was 3 flying swords, and their levels weren't low. They should be 3 godly weapons of the deity tribulation level. Sumo raised her brows. When she first entered the Netherworld realm, she didn't do anything. It could be said that she didn't even know a single person. How could there be cultivators trying to kill her here? Moreover, judging from the strength and direction of the 3 flying swords, they were clearly trying to kill her. However, with Sumo's current strength, it was impossible for 3 deity tribulation level cultivators to kill her. However, Sumo still had to hide her strength and didn't completely expose her strength. Huff! The Sky Wheel flying ship suddenly flipped in the air, performing a very difficult evasive maneuver. One of the flying swords was directly dodged by the flying ship. Clang! The other flying sword hit the Sky Wheel flying ship. Sumo had already modified the Sky Wheel flying ship, and godly weapons of the deity tribulation level couldn't hurt it. As for the last flying sword, Sumo didn't dodge it. Instead, she waved her hand, and the broken bamboo pole appeared in her hand. Clang! The broken bamboo pole directly hit the flying sword, sending it flying. Although Sumo had dodged all 3 flying swords, Sumo still looked to be in a sorry state, as if she had been lucky. She had managed to confuse the 3 cultivators who were secretly attacking her. Otherwise, if Sumo had revealed the strength of the undead realm, they would have immediately fled. Wind Prison, Sword Corrosion, Dragon Binding. As soon as Sumo dodged the 3 swords, 2 magical techniques, and 1 magical treasure headed straight for Sumo. At the same time, 3 black-robe cultivators had already surrounded Sumo in a triangular formation. The 3 black-robed cultivators all wore special masks. The masks were alternating between black and white, making them look like demons. Judging from their stature, they were 3 cultivators, 2 men and 1 woman. They were all at the early stage of the deity Tribulation Realm. In theory, 3 early-stage deity Tribulation Realm cultivators to kill an early-stage soul Transformation Realm cultivator was already a foolproof arrangement. Unfortunately, their information was wrong. Sumo was a fake soul Transformation Realm cultivator, and she was truly undead. In the void again, a dragon-like whirlwind descended from the sky. A powerful suction almost formed a vacuum, trying to trap Sumo firmly within it. At the same time, a phantom longsword suddenly appeared in the whirlwind. It was 7 or 8 meters long, emitting a dazzling brilliance, and directly pierced towards Sumo's chest. The other magical treasure was shining with golden light, which made Sumo slightly frown, because Sumo also had that kind of magical treasure, the dragon binding divine rope. During the battle of the Immortal Temple on the White Bone Continent, the Lee brothers had used this magical treasure. It was a high-level deity Tribulation Realm magic treasure, and it was said that there were only 7 of them in the entire Juyo Nether City. Now, there were 2 in Sumo's tattered cloth bag, both of which belonged to the Lee brothers. Unexpectedly, Sumo saw the dragon binding divine rope here again. Could it be that these 3 cultivators were from Juyo City? But why did they want to kill me? Sumo's mind raced. At the same time, he formed a seal with his hands, and the undying power in his body slightly dispersed. The divine Tribulation Realm and the undying realm were separated by a major realm. Moreover, the undying realm was the last realm of the Red Dust Realm. Therefore, unless one was a special person, the 2 realms couldn't be compared at all. Bang! Bang! Sumo didn't use any magical techniques at all. As soon as the undying power dispersed, the 2 magical techniques, Wind Prison and Sword Erosion, collapsed. They couldn't do any harm to Sumo at all. Only the divine dragon binding rope was able to bind Sumo in an instant. Unfortunately, it was done on purpose by Sumo. After all, the dragon binding divine rope could only bind divine tribulation cultivators. The undying power. The 2 male cultivators in black instantly sensed the aura emanating from Sumo. Otherwise, their magical techniques wouldn't have collapsed. However, Sumo was bound by the dragon binding divine rope again. It was a contradictory situation. Withdraw. The female cultivator in black shouted. However, Sumo didn't move at all. The 3 cultivators were slightly surprised. However, at this moment, they found that they couldn't move at all. The dragon binding divine rope went straight into Sumo's bag of holding. At the same time, Sumo's figure moved. The tattered bamboo stick in his hand pressed against the forehead of one of the male cultivators. Who are you? Why do you want to kill me? Sumo smiled coldly. Anyone who betrays Juyo City has the right to kill them. The male cultivator in black replied firmly. Sumo was stunned. Chapter 396. Those who betray the Netherworld realm should be punished by everyone. These words came out of the mouth of the black-robed male cultivator, and they were very powerful and full of a sense of justice. At that moment, Sumo wondered if he was a traitor of the Netherworld. Sumo was amused. I'm a traitor? Was there something wrong with the cultivators of the Netherworld realm? How could he be a traitor of the Netherworld realm? He had seen traitors of the Netherworld before, Li Yuanyi and Li Yuanchu. However, they died under the sword of the Mute Master. But now that he thought about it, Sumo found it a little strange. From what he had seen, the so-called traders of the netherworld seemed to have a low realm. Back then, he heard from Linghu He Huan that Li Yuanyi and Li Yuanshu were outstanding talents of the netherworld city. However, their final realm was only the late stage of the deity tribulation realm. This didn't seem to fit the current situation that Sumo had seen. He had seen many deity tribulation cultivators in Netherworld Town. Of course, these thoughts only flashed through his mind for a moment. Actually, Sumo had neglected a very important issue of time. The betrayal of Li Yuanyi and Li Yuanshu happened 100,000 years ago. 100,000 years could change a lot of things. None of the traitors would admit that they betrayed the Netherworld realm. The guiltless faction deserves to die. The black-robed cultivator whose forehead was pressed against by Sumo sneered. Oh! The corner of Sumo's mouth rose. A light flashed on the broken bamboo pole. Crack! The mask of the black-robed cultivator cracked. The black-robed cultivator revealed his true appearance. He was a young man with well-defined features and a righteous face. Although Sumo's bamboo pole was pressed against his forehead, he was still fearless and looked death calmly in the eye. "Are you cultivators of the Netherworld city?" Sumo asked. The black-robed young man sneered and didn't say anything. His attitude was very clear. He didn't want Sumo to consult him even though he already knew. "I'm not a traitor of the Netherworld. You must have misunderstood." Sumo smiled faintly. "If you're a cultivator from Nine Serenity City, you might have heard of Linghu He Huan. I met her once, and I've even dealt with the traders of the Nine Underworlds with her." Linghu He Huan? The black-clothed youth frowned, and his expression changed slightly. Obviously, he had heard of this name before. Could it be that they were really mistaken? At this moment, Sumo flipped her hand, and the Netherworld token appeared in her hand. Sumo's thoughts were very straightforward. He had the Netherworld token in his hand, which was enough to prove his identity. Indeed, it was the wisest choice. However, the moment he took out the token, 3 streams of sword chi suddenly flew out from the void. At this moment, the broken bamboo pole in Sumo's hand had already flown out. However, the gray-robed cultivator didn't want to fight with Sumo at all. After killing the 3 black-clothed cultivators, he directly threw out a talisman. Boom! The talisman exploded, filling the sky with dust. Ugh! At the same time, the gray-robed cultivator let out a muffled groan. Obviously, Sumo's bamboo pole had injured him. However, there was no more movement in the dust. Puff! Sumo exhaled spiritual energy from her mouth. A gust of wind blew, instantly dispersing the dust. However, there was no sign of the gray-robed cultivator. She retrieved the broken bamboo pole, which was stained with blood. The gray-robed cultivator had already disappeared from Sumo's divine sense. Sumo's eyes flashed with killing intent. Killing the 3 black-clothed cultivators in front of him was simply a humiliation to him. Sumo woke up the little white pig. At this time, this guy was still the size of a wild boar. It seemed that the evil spirit aura in the Black Valley had not been completely digested. However, its eyes were even brighter. Remember this smell. Sumo brought the blood stain on the bamboo pole to the little white pig's nose. The little white pig lifted its nose, then nodded, indicating that it remembered. Then it returned to the broken cloth bag. Sumo waved her hand, gathering the corpses of the 3 black-clothed cultivators in front of her. Sumo used the bamboo pole to break the masks of the other 2 black-clothed cultivators. The man and the woman didn't look old, but they had calm expressions on their faces. It seemed that death was nothing out of the ordinary for them. The gray-robed cultivator only killed them, but didn't take their bags of storage. Sumo picked up the bags of storage of the 3 black-clothed cultivators. After opening them, he couldn't help but frown. The 3 black-clothed cultivators in front of him were all deity tribulation realm cultivators. However, the things inside their bags of storage were pitifully small. There were 3,000 middle-grade spirit stones, 3 black medicinal pills, and 30 black spirit stones. This was the entire contents of the bags of storage of the 3 deity tribulation realm cultivators. Middle-grade spirit stones didn't mean much to Sumo. As for the 3 black medicinal pills, Sumo didn't recognize them. Sumo had seen those black spirit stones earlier. They should be top-quality spirit stones from the Netherworld realm. From the looks of it, their bags of storage have been specially organized. When carrying out a mission, they would only bring some necessities. But at this time, Sumo suddenly discovered that there was a small and exquisite token of authority hanging on the waists of the 3 black-clothed cultivators. On top of the token of authority were written, Netherworld Undead. 8. Chapter 397. The Undead of the Netherworld. Looking at the token of authority, Sumo furrowed his brows. Back then, he heard Linghu Hahuan and Li Yuani mention the undead. Linghu Hahuan once said that the cultivators of the Netherworld were all undead and had their names in the Book of Heaven. Moreover, they all carried original sins on their bodies. At this moment, Sumo recalled the 16 words on the stone tablet before entering the Netherworld. Once you enter the Netherworld, don't turn back. With original sins on your body, you will never perish. It seemed that those 4 words all had different meanings. What kind of original sins did the people of the Netherworld realm carry? However, Sumo didn't know. However, the Netherworld was indeed a special place. Sizzle, but right at this time, Sumo heard a sizzling sound. Then, the 3 tokens of authority emitted flames and gradually turned into black smoke. From the looks of it, once the owner of the token died, the token would automatically dissipate. Undead, it shouldn't be referring to all the cultivators. Otherwise, why would they wear tokens of authority? Sumo pondered but didn't do anything. Sumo didn't collect the corpses of the 3 cultivators of the deity tribulation realm because he didn't need them. Thereupon, he flicked his finger and shot out 3 flames. Whoosh! The 3 corpses instantly burst into flames. Sumo put away the things in the storage bags of the 3 cultivators and sighed. If you 3 meet that gray-robed cultivator again, I'll seek justice for you. After saying this much, Sumo boarded the Skywheel flying ship once again. This time, he used his divine sense to cover an area of 500 kilometers. However, he didn't find anything unusual. The whole mysterious Yellow Mountain range was very quiet. The gate of the mysterious Yellow sect was 3,000 kilometers away, but Sumo didn't go looking for it. Although that gray-robed cultivator might be a cultivator of the mysterious Yellow sect, Sumo didn't want to cause trouble without any evidence. After all, that gray-robed cultivator didn't really attack him. However, Sumo didn't understand why a gray-robed cultivator would kill the so-called undead in the Netherworld realm. And why would a black-robed cultivator want to kill him? The Sinless Branch? Not dead. On the Skywheel flying ship, Sumo closed her eyes slightly. He was sorting through all the information in his mind. He was intercepted and killed because the other party thought he was a member of the so-called Sinless bloodline. Didn't Li Yuani and Li Yuanchu belong to the guiltless lineage? The so-called Sinless bloodline might be equivalent to traitors of the 9 underworlds. They had already admitted that they were no longer the undead. Therefore, the cultivators of the Netherworld, who considered themselves to be undead, wanted to kill the people of the Sinless bloodline, because in their eyes, the guiltless bloodline was a traitor. Sumo pondered and felt that her conjecture was very reasonable. If that was the case, it would explain a lot of things. However, who was the gray-clothed cultivator who killed the 3 black-clothed cultivators? Could it be that he was a real, sinless cultivator? Very likely. Sumo answered her own question. The Sinless faction and the Undying faction should be 2 factions in the Netherworld realm. From the looks of it, the Netherworld realm was the same as the Pure Land. It wasn't a truly peaceful and pure land. Suemo pondered as he steered the boat away. She wanted to go to northern Qian City. After a short moment, 2 figures gradually appeared at the place where the fight took place. They were 2 gray-clothed cultivators with red masks on their faces. One of the cultivators had a bloodstain on his left shoulder. It was the gray-clothed cultivator who killed the 3 undead just now. There was a bloody hole in his shoulder due to the bamboo pole. Fortunately, it wasn't a vital point, and the bleeding had already stopped. Senior sister, our information was wrong. That green-clothed cultivator isn't at the early stage of the soul transformation realm. Based on the methods he used just now, he should be at the intermediate stage of the undying realm. The blood-stained gray-clothed cultivator said, "If not for my special aura-concealing technique, I'm afraid I would have died here before you arrived. Senior sister, is it possible that the purple jade pavilion wants to kill us with a borrowed knife?" The voice of the gray-clothed cultivator became gloomy. Intermediate stage of the undying realm? The other gray-clothed cultivator turned out to be a female cultivator. Her tone was somewhat suspicious. After all, she hadn't seen Sumo with her own eyes. However, she was well aware of how powerful her junior brother was. To be able to injure her junior brother, he should at least be at the intermediate stage of the undying realm, because they were professional cultivators, assassins from the Nine Nether realm. The purple jade pavilion won't do that. The gray-clothed female cultivator sneered. The purple jade pavilion is a businessman just like us. Businessmen won't cut off their own source of wealth. The purple jade pavilion and the ink soul building, one in the light and the other in the dark, can only succeed. We both understand this point. And the gray-clothed cultivator nodded. What senior sister said makes sense. However, the informants of the purple jade pavilion rarely make mistakes. Yes, the gray-clothed female cultivator sighed. Therefore, that green-clothed cultivator is definitely not simple. A sinless person at the intermediate stage of the undying realm is a big fish. The best quality spirit stone of the Pure Land is not something that can be obtained casually. The gray-clothed female cultivator continued. Moreover, he dared to use it for a transaction, indicating that he has nothing to fear. Such a person must be a thorn in the side of those diehards. We will follow him secretly and act according to the situation. No matter who we kill, we will still have business to do. And the gray-clothed male cultivator nodded. He paused and said, "Right, senior sister, just now that green-clothed cultivator said that he is not a traitor of the Nine Nether." The gray-clothed female cultivator sneered again. A sinless person will never admit that he has betrayed the Nine Nether, just like those undead people who always think that their original sins cannot be eliminated. In fact, they're all stubborn people. But that green-clothed cultivator also said that he knows Linghu Hihuan. The gray-clothed male cultivator's voice was a little hesitant, because he also felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. Linghu Hihuan? The gray-clothed female cultivator's tone changed. The Linghu Hihuan who has been sleeping in the Nether City and is known as the Undying Beauty? In the entire Nine Nether, there is only one Linghu clan. Of course, it is her. The gray-clothed male cultivator said. How is that possible? From what I remember, Linghu Hihuan has been sleeping for at least tens of thousands of years. If she wakes up, it will definitely cause a sensation in the entire Nine Nether. The gray-clothed female cultivator said. That green-clothed cultivator also said that he and Linghu Hihuan had dealt with the traitors of the Nine Nether realm. The gray-clothed male cultivator said. And the gray-clothed female cultivator's tone became more doubtful. However, she also felt that according to common sense, there was no reason for that green-clothed cultivator to speak carelessly in the situation at that time. Moreover, there was probably no one in the Nine Nether who would dare to speak carelessly about Linghu Hihuan. That green-clothed cultivator is definitely not ordinary. Let's follow and observe in secret and act according to the situation. If it really doesn't work, we will have to ask the elders in the building to make a decision. All right, we will listen to senior sister's arrangements. The gray-clothed male cultivator nodded. Then, the two gray-clothed cultivators stopped talking and formed hand seals at the same time. Whirlpools instantly appeared under their feet. Then, the two disappeared into the void. At this time, Sumo had just arrived at the Northern Heaven City. 8. Chapter 398. Northern Qian City was the #1 immortal city in the northern territory of the Qian Palace. But from afar, the gate of Northern Qian City didn't look very majestic. Sumo looked at northern Qian City and felt that it should be about the same size as Forgotten Capital City. The Netherworld was vast, but ancient. Its overall size and population should be inferior to that of the chaotic Gods continent. Northern Qian City was also a city that never slept. In fact, there was no clear distinction between day and night in the Netherworld realm. The sky here was always emitting a faint light. Northern Qian City was completely open, and it didn't even have a barrier like other cities. It was a free city, an open city. This was the label of Northern Qian City. Sumo didn't encounter any obstacles and directly entered the city. Although Northern Qian City wasn't big, it was very lively and bustling. If the Netherworld town that Sumo had been to was compared to Northern Qian City, it was like heaven and earth. Inside the city, there were 9 streets. Each street was paved with blue stone, straight and spacious. The few streets in the middle were full of shops, and there were a lot of merchants. The journey had been rather hectic, so Su and Mo hurriedly glanced around and decided to choose an inn to rest and recuperate. In the end, he chose an inn called Returning to Heaven. The inn wasn't small, and the waiter was very enthusiastic. Sumo chose a separate courtyard for the sake of peace. Of course, the cost of the inn wasn't cheap. After entering the room, Sumo felt very satisfied. Then he patted his storage bag and took out the little white pig. At this time, the little white pig seemed to have shrunk again, but compared to before, it was still dozens of times fatter. Sumo waved his hand and directly set up a barrier in the room. Rest for a few days, this was Sumo's idea. Whether it was the little white pig or the black feather god Hong, they both needed time to adjust. Sumo was more at ease with the black feather god Hong in the ragged bag. However, he felt that it was better to see the little white pig with his own eyes. More importantly, the little white pig had a keen sense of smell, and it had smelled the blood of the gray-robed cultivator. If it was in the bag, it wouldn't be able to smell anything. Therefore, releasing it could also serve as a warning. After all, Sumo wasn't sure if the gray-clothed cultivator would appear again. At this time, the little white pig was as big as a domestic pig. His entire body was snow white, and his pores were shining. That pair of round eyes was even more clear and spirited. Sumo understood that after devouring those evil souls, the little white pig seemed to be improving bit by bit. Hurry up and absorb the evil soul chi. At the same time, pay attention to the scent I gave you. If there's anything unusual, inform me immediately, Sumo instructed. The little white pig nodded. Sumo did not care about anything else and directly sat cross-legged in the room to meditate. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. In these 5 days, Sumo did not leave the courtyard at all. For cultivators, this was the norm. The innkeeper of the dry returning and wouldn't bother him. The little white pig's body finally returned to its original cute appearance bit by bit. However, its body would occasionally emit a faint silver light. Its fangs were longer, and its silver wings were sharper. The little white pig's changes were still very obvious. These 5 days were completely uneventful, and the little white pig did not feel anything unusual. Sumo could be considered to have a good rest. Therefore, on the 6th day, Sumo put away the little white pig and prepared to take a walk in the city. The Qian Palace was the #1 immortal city in the northern region. Of course, Sumo could not be in a hurry. Moreover, in Nether Passage Town, Sumo heard that in order to catch the tide, he had to prepare some items. Those items were specially made by Nine Gloom, so Sumo naturally did not have them. Therefore, he had to replenish his equipment in this northern Qian city. After leaving the dry returning inn, he did not walk far before he came to a crossroads. There was a small square with a few shops around it. Sumo looked around, then entered an artifact crafting pavilion. The artifact crafting pavilion was neither big nor small, and there were 4 or 5 cultivators inside buying magic tools, talismans, and the like. Their realms were basically nascent soul perfection or early soul transformation realm. From the things they bought, they were most likely also preparing to go to the ancient money realm. Actually, this was very normal, and it was also a business opportunity for the Chi crafting pavilion. Shopkeeper, give me 10 rising sea talismans. Shopkeeper, I want a high-grade tide-breaking boat. Do you still have dragon-slaying nails? Give me 100. The cultivators all wanted the artifacts that would be used on the day of the tide opening. Although the three shopkeepers were all core formation cultivators, they were very busy. Sumo was not in a hurry, so he casually looked around the dazzling array of items in the hall. The artifact crafting pavilion usually sold more common artifacts. They were widely used, easy to use, but cost-effective. If it was a special artifact, cultivators would choose to sacrifice and refine it themselves. After taking a look, Sumo discovered that the artifact crafting pavilion really knew how to do business. They actually sold a magical treasure combination pouch for the ancient money realm. A map of the ancient money, a tide-breaking boat, a beast-repelling bell, 10 water-repelling talismans, 10 rising sea talismans, 100 dragon-slaying nails, and so on were all packed into a single storage pouch. These things were basically necessary for going to the ancient money realm to rush to the ancient money realm. Actually, apart from cultivators from the outside world like Sumo, the cultivators of the netherworld realm all had a few things in stock. But just in case, everyone directly bought a combination pouch and then bought 1 or 2 other items that they needed. A combination pouch cost 100 high-grade spirit stones or a top-grade spirit stone. It was quite expensive, and they didn't accept middle-grade or low-grade spirit stones. However, those things could save one's life at crucial times. Therefore, the business of this shop was surprisingly good. Dear customer, what do you need? A shopkeeper finally took care of Sumo. If you're going to rush to the ancient money realm, I suggest you directly buy a combination of magical treasures. It's convenient, practical, and reasonably priced. Sumo smiled. Actually, that combination of magical treasures was the most suitable for him. Therefore, he naturally wanted to buy it. Thereupon, Sumo nodded. He paid a top-grade black spirit stone and put the bag of magical treasures inside his own storage pouch. Then he looked left and right. Dear customer, what do you want to buy? The things in our shop are practical, good quality, and cheap. Suddenly, he discovered that there was a special object floating in a corner. That object was very inconspicuous, and it seemed to be an irregular black magical treasure. Or perhaps it wasn't a magical treasure at all, but a fragment of a magical treasure. It was about the size of half a palm, and its whole body was black. In a corner, no one would pay attention to it. However, as soon as Sumo saw it, his soul shook. At that moment, there seemed to be an inexplicable voice reverberating in his soul and mind. Don't ask about this life. Don't ask about the next life. Don't ask about karma. Don't ask about fate. When everything begins and where it ends. If you don't know the beginning, why ask about the end? Sumo had heard that voice before. It came from the other side of life. Chapter 399. The black fragment made Sumo's soul skip a beat. It was a voice from the other side of life, like the sound of an ancient pipa being played by fingers with a copper sleeve. At this moment, Sumo was somewhat absent-minded. Ripples appeared in the golden coarse sea, as if tens of thousands of years had passed. The blue-golden skeleton on the 9 dragons' immortal platform slightly shook. Dear customer, senior. The waiter called out to him twice before Sumo reacted. Sumo smiled apologetically. Do you need that fragment? The waiter asked with a smile. What kind of item is it? Sumo asked. The waiter smiled. I won't hide it from you, but I don't know what it is, either. Many years ago, when my master was traveling in the Middle Palace, he accidentally obtained this item. Unfortunately, he couldn't find anything special about it, even after studying it for so many years. As such, he decided to sell it in the shop. I see. Sumo nodded. Dear customer, if you're interested, we can sell it as long as the price is right. We can sell it, the shop assistant said, because it's really of little value. How many spirit stones? Sumo asked. 10 top-quality spirit stones or 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. The waiter said. Oh, Sumo said with a faint smile. That's not cheap. In the netherworld realm, aside from medicinal pills, there are no cheap things, the waiter said with a smile. My master said that because he doesn't know what it is, he's afraid that he'll regret it. If he buys it cheap, he's afraid that he'll regret it after suffering a loss. As the saying goes, goods are sold to the user. If you really think it's useful, the price is fair. For others, it might be a fragment, but in your hands, it might turn into a treasure. Don't you think so? Hee. Sumo looked at the waiter and said, "Waiter, you really know how to buy things. Good. Thanks for your kind words. I'll take this fragment. I'll pay with high-grade spirit stones." Sumo only had a limited number of top-quality spirit stones on him. However, he had enough high-grade spirit stones on him. Therefore, he directly paid 1,000 high-grade spirit stones. The shop assistant was very happy because this fragment had been in the shop for God knows how many years. Almost no one asked about it, and even those who did would shake their heads in the end. Sumo was definitely the buyer. It was always good to sell old goods. In the eyes of the shop assistant, that fragment was not even worth a top-grade spirit stone. Sumo obtained the black fragment. The fragment was cool to the touch. It was made of a special material and was almost weightless. However, the moment she held it in her hand, Sumo felt extremely comfortable. That feeling was extremely special. It wasn't convenient for Sumo to observe it for too long, so she put it directly into the rag bag. Originally, Sumo was a little worried that the ragged bag would reject the fragment. One had to know that only Dharma treasures above the deity tribulation level could be put into a ragged bag. However, the black fragment was successfully placed inside. That meant that its level was definitely not too low. After buying the black fragment, Sumo didn't have anything else to buy, so she left the Chi Refinement Pavilion. The streets were bustling with activity, and there were many cultivators. Sumo was thinking about where to go, but in the crowd, she suddenly saw a figure. That was none other than the white-robed young man she met in the restaurant in secluded town that day. The white-robed young man had a leisurely expression and walked calmly. 5 caddies of sea soul wine. Sumo naturally remembered the white-robed young man's drinking that day, and of course, the look he gave her at that time. At this time, the white-robed young man turned around and happened to see Sumo. There was a smile on his face, as if seeing Sumo here was within his expectations, but also a little unexpected. Immediately, the white-robed young man walked towards Sumo, and Sumo also had a little interest in the white-robed young man. In fact, Sumo didn't believe in fate, but he understood cause and effect. Meeting this young man twice was definitely not a coincidence. "Brother, we are really fated." The white-robed young man cupped his fists at Sumo and smiled warmly. Sumo cupped his fists in return and said with a smile, "It's indeed not easy for us to meet each other twice from so far away." "Not twice." The white-robed young man shook his head. "I've seen brother 3 times. 3 times? Sumo was slightly stunned. "That's right. 3 times. The white-robed young man said with a smile. "I saw you outside the 9 Underworld's door. If it wasn't for me, I'm afraid you'd have to walk around the Black Valley for a while longer." Oh, hearing this, Sumo couldn't help but be shocked, because at this moment, his appearance was completely different from when he was in the Black Valley. This white-robed young man could actually see through her disguise technique. He saw everything in the Black Valley. Sumo recalled the situation when she came out of the Black Valley, and her heart couldn't help but be moved. It seemed like someone really helped her at that time. Could it be this young man? If that was really the case, this young man was definitely not an early-stage soul transformation cultivator, but a hidden expert. Since that's the case, why don't we find a place to have a drink? Otherwise, I'll always owe you a favor," Sumo said with a smile. "All right. Unfortunately, there's no Serene Town's sea soul wine here." The white-robed young man was rather straightforward, but that restaurant in front is also not bad. The white-robed young man pointed to a 3-story restaurant at the corner of the street called Northern Gone Drunk. Northern Gone Drunk, good name. "Please." Sumo wasn't a bashful person either. The two of them directly ran to that restaurant. The white-robed young man had a good eye. Northern Gone Drunk was a first-class restaurant in Northern Gone City. The two of them found a private room on the 3rd floor and sat opposite each other. Sumo treated them, and the white-robed young man didn't stand on ceremony, ordering the dishes and wine with ease. It seemed like it wasn't his first time here. After ordering the dishes, Sumo cupped her fists towards the white-robed young man again. Thank you for your help in the Black Valley. I'm Sumo. May I ask for young hero's name? People could easily see through Sumo's disguise technique. Therefore, there was no need for Sumo to give him a fake name. She might as well tell the truth. The white-robed young man said with a smile, Brother Su, you don't need to be so polite. This little brother's name is Li Beihan. Li Beihan. Sumo didn't know if this name was real or fake, but she naturally remembered it. Sumo thanks young hero Li again. May I ask which part of the Netherworld realm you are from? Sumo asked again. Hee. Actually, this is my first time coming to the Netherworld realm. It's just that I did a lot of homework before coming here, the white-robed young man said with a smile. Oh. Sumo was surprised again. The fact that the white-robed young man wasn't someone from the Netherworld realm was beyond her expectations. The efficiency of this northern gone drunk was rather high. At this time, the waiter had already delivered the dishes. The 8 dishes smelled, and looked good. After the waiter left, the white-robed young man gently waved his hand and set up a barrier. Brother Su, you aren't someone from the Netherworld realm, right? The white-robed young man said with a smile. Oh. Sumo looked at the white-robed young man and nodded with a smile. So, that day in Netherworld Town, you told me not to reveal my wealth and that there are no top-quality spirit stones in the Netherworld realm. Sumo filled both her and the white-robed young man's cups with wine. Hee. That's right. The white-robed young man raised his cup with a smile. If I'm not wrong, Brother Su must have been intercepted before arriving at Northern Gone City. Congratulations, Brother Su. You're safe and sound. Chapter 400. Clank. Sumo and Li Beihan clinked their glasses and downed the contents in one gulp. Although this northern gone drunken wine wasn't sea soul wine, it had a different flavor. This wine isn't bad, Li Beihan praised. Oh. Hee. Sumo laughed. How does this wine compare to the sea soul wine from the Netherworld Town? Each has its own merits. Li Beihan put down his glass and picked up the wine jug, filling both his and Sumo's glasses. You have a good tolerance for alcohol, Sumo said. Actually, it's not that I have a good tolerance for alcohol. It's just that my constitution is a bit special, and the so-called sea dragon soul blood poison doesn't work on me, Li Beihan explained. Li Beihan didn't say how special his constitution was, and Sumo didn't ask further. After all, constitution was a secret of cultivators. Brotherly, how did you know that someone would try to kill me on my way here? Sumo changed the topic. Li Beihan laughed. Brother Su, the Pure Land is a special place. There isn't a single white top-quality spirit stone mine in the entire Netherworld realm. The top-quality spirit stones of the Netherworld realm are all black. After saying this much, Li Beihan flipped his hand, and a black spirit stone appeared in his hand, shining brightly. It was a top-quality spirit stone of the Netherworld realm. Sumo looked at the top-quality spirit stone and said with a faint smile, Therefore, top-quality white spirit stones must have come from outside the Netherworld realm, and cultivators with top-quality white spirit stones are considered traders of the Netherworld. That's right. Li Beihan nodded. That day, that nascent soul cultivator from the Purple Jade Pavilion spread the news about you. Whether it's the top-quality spirit stone you have or the fact that you're a trader, they'll definitely try to kill you. But aren't there cultivators from outside the Netherworld realm? Sumo was confused. Wasn't it a bit absurd to judge everything based on a few spirit stones? Apart from traders, cultivators of the Netherworld realm never use top-quality spirit stones to trade. At the same time, cultivators of the Pure Land continent can't enter the Netherworld realm. What do you mean? Sumo asked. The Netherworld realm can be divided into 2 parts, the inland and the sea. You came from the Black Valley, which is one of the passageways that leads to the exit of the Netherworld realm. However, the passage was irreversible. You can leave, but you can't enter. At this point, Li Beihan looked at Sumo and smiled. I don't know how you got in here, Brother Su, but you shouldn't have appeared in the Dark Valley. Oh, hee. Sumo smiled but didn't say anything. Li Beihan didn't ask any more questions and continued. When you came out of the Dark Valley, you should have seen a boundary steel. The Netherworld realm? Sumo said. Therefore, the Black Valley could be considered a gateway to the netherworld realm. Li Beihan said, "Once you leave the Black Valley, walk along the small path. When you reach the main road, you can choose two directions. One direction leads to the Qian Palace Division, and the other to the Bitter Wheel Earth Sea. You chose the direction of the Qian Palace Division. Therefore, we should see a towering stone monument in less than 50 kilometers." The corners of Li Beihan's mouth curled. Sumo raised her glass, and the two of them downed it in one gulp. That's right. A 300-meter-tall stone monument with red and white characters on both sides. Sumo nodded. Once you enter the netherworld, don't turn back. With original sin on your body, you will never perish. Gods, demons, immortals, skeletons, and beauties. Your sins are unforgivable. Repent, and you will be saved. Sumo said one side, while Li Beihan said the other. What kind of monument is that? Sumo asked. Hee, that should be the obelisk of the creator of the netherworld realm. Li Beihan sneered. There are 4 similar monuments in the netherworld realm. They are located at 4 corners, corresponding to the Qian, Jin, Sun, and Kuan palaces. At the same time, they also correspond to the 4 gates of the netherworld realm. The tower with the words Netherworld Realm written on it on the way here is one of the 4 gates, Sumo said. Yes, Li Beihan nodded. That gate is also called the Gate of Life and Death. Gate of Life and Death. Sumo slightly furrowed her brows. That's right, the Gate of Life and Death. Li Beihan looked at Sumo meaningfully and said, You are regarded as a traitor of the netherworld. The fact that you were able to pass through that gate is also a key reason. Sumo was somewhat confused. Don't look down on that gate, Li Beihan said with a smile. When you came in, there was nothing strange. But that doesn't mean that anyone can come in through that gate. The corpses of the disciples of that gate can already be piled up like a mountain. Corpses piled up like a mountain. Sumo furrowed her brows. When he entered the city, he didn't see any corpses at all, let alone piled up like a mountain. Li Beihan said, You didn't see it, did you? I didn't see it. Sumo shook her head. It's right that you didn't see it. Li Beihan nodded and said with a smile, Because I didn't see it either. Huh. Sumo's hand, that was raising the wine, cup stopped in midair. He really wanted to extinguish the smile on Li Beihan's face. If you didn't see it, why are you talking nonsense? Brother Su, I'm just joking, but I'm definitely not talking nonsense. It's just that it's a long story. Actually, it's all in the past. Those corpses have already turned into the black curtain of the netherworld realm. The black curtain of the netherworld realm is the endless black light that you saw. It's a special kind of barrier. Whose corpses are those? Sumo asked solemnly. They're the corpses of all the cultivators that wanted to enter the netherworld realm but couldn't. Li Beihan sighed. Nowadays, all the people that can freely pass through the gate of life and death are considered to be people of the netherworld realm. Unless they're people like you and me. Sumo said, You and I are also different. Li Beihan took a sip of wine and said, You'll know my identity in the future. I was able to enter because I relied on external objects. However, Brother Su, the reason you were able to pass through the gate of life and death is because you've experienced life and death. Experienced life and death? Sumo raised her brows. The life and death I'm talking about isn't just a metaphor. I'm talking about people that have truly died and reincarnated, Li Beihan said solemnly as he looked at Sumo. Moreover, you're definitely a reincarnator of the 3 realms. A reincarnator of the 3 realms. Sumo's expression didn't change. He had already tacitly agreed to this point. It was just that he didn't know who he was. Sumo understood that he must have lost his most important memory. Who are you? Sumo looked at Li Beihan. This young man in white clothes seemed to know a lot of things. Brother Su, you'll know who I am in the future. But right now, it's not convenient for me to tell you. However, I'm not a reincarnator. It's just that I have a deep relationship with the 3 realms, Li Beihan said. The netherworld realm is related to the 3 realms? Sumo said, It's definitely related. Li Beihan said confidently. This is also the reason why I came to the netherworld realm. I want to go to the Netherworld City to look for some things. You want to go to the Netherworld City? Yes, but I'm not in a hurry. Li Beihan poured wine for himself and Sumo. I have a lot of time, and I'm waiting for something to happen. What is it? Sumo asked. Brother Su, have you heard of this saying? Li Beihan didn't directly answer Sumo's question. That saying? In the center of the Pure Land, there's Tian Fu above and the Netherworld realm below. They're separated by the Sea of Bitterness, and they're separated by tens of thousands of meters. The Sea of Bitterness is like a mirror. Therefore, some people say that the Netherworld realm is the reflection of Tian Fu. They're both real and illusory, Li Beihan said with a frown. Obviously, he was also confused by this saying. The Netherworld realm is the reflection of Tian Fu. These words made Sumo's heart shake, because he suddenly remembered that he was originally going to return to Tian Fu City from the Soul Storage Altar, but he unexpectedly stepped into the Netherworld Dark Valley. Could it be because of this? Chapter 401. Of course, Sumo wouldn't say what he was thinking. He frowned and smiled wryly. Isn't that a bit unbelievable? 9 serenities and Tian Fu. Which one is empty? Which one is real? It really is unbelievable. Li Beihan smiled. But that is just a rumor. It may not be true. If it is true, if 9 serenities moves, Tian Fu should have some reaction. So, you're waiting for the Qin Palace to open its tide. Sumo understood what Li Beihan was waiting for. Smart. Li Beihan smiled and nodded. 9 serenities opens its tide day. It should be a chance to prove it. Sumo took a bite of the fish and thought it tasted good. She looked at Li Beihan and said, but you are in 9 serenities. How do you know Tian Fu moves? Even if you prove it, so what? Does it matter if it is or isn't? I can't reveal the secrets of heaven. I have my own plans. Li Beihan took a sip of wine and avoided Sumo's question mysteriously. Haha. Sumo smiled and didn't ask any more. After all, the two of them had just met. It was up to him whether he said it or not. Then, I wish you success. Sumo invited him to drink. The two of them clinked glasses again and drank. Brother Su, what are you looking for in 9 Serenities City? Li Beihan took a sip of his food. Me? Sumo couldn't help but smile. You may not believe me. I'm a person who goes with the flow. I don't ask for anything. In such a big 9 serenities, there must be something I need. Oh, Li Beihan said, actually, I am curious. What method did you use to enter 9 serenities? You know, if you're not from 9 serenities, you have to be at least a break world cultivator to enter. Are you a break world, Almighty? Sumo asked. Haha. Li Beihan shook his head and didn't answer Sumo's question. It doesn't matter if I'm a break world cultivator or not. I can come and go freely in 9 serenities. In a small 9 serenities, I can come and go as I please. But you're different. Brother Su, you're just at the middle stage of the undead realm. In theory, it's absolutely impossible for you to enter the 9 Nether. Sumo wasn't shocked by Li Beihan's words. Li Beihan was definitely not an ordinary person. Although in Sumo's eyes, the other party was only at the early stage of the soul transformation realm. That was only on the surface. In Li Beihan's eyes, Sumo's true realm was clearly seen through. Li Beihan's cultivation level must be unattainable. Could it be that he had met a second person similar to Yi Wuhui? However, Sumo was very calm. From the looks of it, Li Beihan was a friend, not an enemy. Otherwise, there would be no need for him to drink with Sumo. With a wave of his hand, he should be able to subdue Sumo. Hee. Brotherly, I'm not lying to you. Actually, I entered Jiyo City by mistake. As I was walking, I suddenly entered the Black Valley. As for why, I don't know. In the past, I've only heard of the 9th Nether City, and I practically know nothing else. Huh. Li Beihan laughed. That's quite believable. If you understood the Netherworld, you wouldn't have taken out more than 200 top-quality white spirit stones to buy medicinal pills. That's simply asking for trouble. Sumo smiled bitterly. Indeed, outside Mount Xianhuang, there were 3 black-robed cultivators who wanted to kill me. Unfortunately, they didn't succeed. There are no dead people in the Netherworld, right? Li Beihan said. Yes. Sumo said, It's just that their realm was too low. Originally, I wanted to ask them why they were under my control. However, they were assassinated by a gray-robed, ghost-masked cultivator. Hee, killing with a borrowed knife? They didn't see that you were an undying cultivator and thought that you were really at the soul transformation realm. Even the informants of the Purple Jade Pavilion can make mistakes sometimes, Li Beihan said. Killing with a borrowed knife? Sumo was confused. You don't understand the Netherworld realm. In fact, the cultivators of the Netherworld realm are mainly divided into two factions, the Undying and the Sinless. How are they divided? Sumo asked. Li Beihan furrowed his brows. Actually, I'm not too sure. However, the cultivators of the Netherworld can be said to be the earliest cultivators of the Pure Land. The earliest cultivators of the Pure Land. Sumo was dumbfounded. That's right, Li Beihan said. Originally, the Netherworld realm should have been on the surface of the Pure Land. In other words, the current Pure Land continent didn't exist 7 million years ago. In the past, the pure Earth planet only had one sea and one continent. Sumo listened quietly, as though she was listening to a very distant legend. But in fact, it was a very distant legend. But later, the entire pure Earth planet experienced a big change. The ancient continent sank, the sea of bitterness rose sharply, and a new continent appeared. As a result, it became the current situation. What about Tianfu City? How did it appear? I'm not sure. Li Beihan took a sip of wine. But after that big change, Tianfu City appeared. What kind of big change was it? Sumo asked again. According to ancient records, on the day the heavens changed, tsunamis rose tens of thousands of feet, and the rivers of stars shook. Beyond the heavens, stars and bones fell to the earth. The earth sank, and mountains rose in all directions. Black and white fog gathered a myriad of fragrances, condensing for several months without dispersing. After that, heaven and earth reappeared. 3 floating continents surrounded the wheel of bitterness. The city hung in the sky, and the country was buried in the sea. Li Beihan paused for a moment. Everything became what it is today. These few words moved Sumo's heart. What happened on that day? Sumo was talking to herself, not asking Li Beihan. That day, however, Li Beihan's tone slightly sank. That day, the aftermath of the destruction of the 3 realms finally passed through the vast universe and affected this pure land. Li Beihan raised his eyebrows, and then suddenly drank the wine in his cup. Sumo's gaze sharpened. This white-robed young man seemed to be suppressing his emotions with the help of wine. The Pure Land evolved, and the Netherworld entered the sea. After that, for some reason, the cultivators of the Netherworld began to talk about original sins. It seemed that they believed that they should have died in that great calamity, but they didn't. Instead, they survived. They called themselves the undead. However, time passed, and generations changed. Gradually, among the undead, there was a saying that they were not guilty. Later, some of the cultivators of the Netherworld were unwilling to stay in the dark Netherworld. They wanted to return to the surface of the Pure Land. So, more than 100,000 years ago, the Sinless branch became a very powerful force. During this time, some cultivators even began to try to climb out of the Netherworld. However, there were almost none who succeeded. If the cultivators of the Netherworld wanted to leave this place, it would be extremely difficult. Even if they succeeded, they would fall by 1 or 2 great realms. This made many of the Sinless branch flinch. They blamed all of this on the conservative undead's control over the Netherworld city. There are even more ancient secrets of the Netherworld city in the Netherworld city. So, although the Netherworld realm seems peaceful now, the contradictions are extremely intense. The undead insist on not leaving the Netherworld city, while the Sinless branch wants to seize control of the Netherworld city and return to the surface. The two sides have been fighting openly and secretly for more than 100,000 years. When the sandpiper and the clam fight, the fisherman benefits. So, in the struggle between the two factions, the carefree faction appeared. This was a general term for some cultivators and sects that didn't take a stand. This group of cultivators didn't care where they lived. No one supported them, and no one opposed them. They didn't have any beliefs, and they considered themselves to be businessmen. They only wanted to obtain benefits and resources to cultivate. The Purple Jade Pavilion, the Black Soul Pavilion, the Bliss Palace, and so on all belong to this faction. So you are in great danger. Li Beihan said a lot in one breath. The Bliss Palace? Sumo was shocked. Chapter 402. The Bliss Palace. Of course, Sumo had heard of it. Back in the days, the Bliss Palace of the White Bones realm was an existence that made people pale at the mere mention of it. Linghu, He Huan, was even more bewitching and charming. Now that she heard the words Bliss Palace from Li Beihan's mouth, Sumo really didn't expect it. There was actually a Bliss Palace in the Netherworld. Thinking of Linghu, He Huan's identity, the Bliss Palace of the White Bones realm should belong to the Netherworld. But why did it belong to the carefree faction? Linghu He Huan was someone who chased after Li Yuanyi and Li Yuanshu, people who judged the Netherworld, and also claimed to be undead. It was really hard to figure out what was going on. However, Sumo didn't show it. She was just listening to Li Beihan's introduction of the situation in the Netherworld realm. What? Do all three parties want to kill me? Sumo smiled faintly. The undead see you as a traitor, so of course they want to kill you. The businessmen see you as a fat sheep, so they probably want to kill you. Although the sinless faction won't kill you, I think they won't mind this misunderstanding. They will only add fuel to the fire. All they want is to create trouble for the undead, Li Beihan analyzed. If I'm not mistaken, your identity was leaked by a cultivator of the Purple Jade Pavilion. Moreover, they deliberately leaked it to the undead. At first, they wanted to kill you with a borrowed knife. Then they killed the undead. However, they didn't expect your realm to be so high. Therefore, they could only kill the 3 black-clothed cultivators and didn't dare touch you. If the people of the Purple Jade Pavilion are from the carefree faction, why would they want to kill the undead? That gray-clothed cultivator might not be from the Purple Jade Pavilion. The Purple Jade Pavilion kills people without spilling blood, and they're good at killing people with poison. However, based on what you said, I think it was most likely a cultivator of the Black Spirit Tower. The Black Spirit Tower is an assassin organization of the Netherworld. As long as someone bids, they will kill them. Both parties bid, and whoever bids the highest will be killed according to their request. The reason the gray-clothed cultivator killed the 3 undead must be because they were on their assassination list. 3 undead can't kill you, so there's no need to keep them. The Netherworld realm is very chaotic. Li Beihan sneered, then raised his cup and drank a mouthful of wine. It seemed like he didn't have a good impression of Nine Nether. Perhaps there will only be fortuitous encounters in this chaotic place. Sumo accompanied him with a sip of wine. If that's the case, wouldn't there be undercurrents surging when the tide starts? There'll definitely be a fight. Of course, Li Beihan said. Every time the tide begins, there's a hidden battle. The Undying Tribe and the Guiltless Tribe were not only fighting to obtain fortuitous opportunities, but also to weaken the other side. Many so-called fortuitous opportunities were actually killing people and robbing them. Every time there was a tide, many cultivators would die inside. There have even been large-scale mass casualties. However, both sides had a tacit understanding on this point. Neither side blamed the other. In any case, they were all first-stage cultivators. The guardians of the 9 underworlds are calm on the surface, and the ordinary cultivators and civilians are living in peace. Every tide opening is a mutual purification. Sumo's lips curled up. Purification? A strange look flashed through Li Beihan's eyes. He seemed surprised that this word came out of Sumo's mouth. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. How can this be considered a purification? The purification of a hidden realm is terrifying. The Netherworld realm is just using this method to play games. From the looks of it, the Undying Tribe still has the upper hand, right? Sumo asked. If the Undying Tribe hadn't had the upper hand, many cultivators would have already rushed out of the Netherworld and returned to the surface. It's still the same for now. Li Beihan smiled. But what about the future? Who do you support? Sumo asked. Me? Li Beihan shook his head. I'm not a cultivator of the netherworld. Of course, I'll just watch from the sidelines. I only want what's mine, and I don't care about anything else. The netherworld has its own path. After saying this much, Li Beihan raised his cup. Brother Su, if you only came here to travel or to increase your realm, then don't get involved. In that case, don't get involved in this mess. Li Beihan's words were a sincere warning. Don't worry. Sumo also raised her cup. If people don't offend me, I won't offend them. Who doesn't want to be free and unfettered? Slap. The two drained their cups in one gulp. After leaving northern Qian City, I'll change my face. Presumably, there aren't many people in the netherworld who have a vision like yours. It won't be easy for anyone to find me. Sumo smiled. Hee, that's right, Li Beihan said. The windmill secret technique isn't ordinary. Oh, Sumo was dumbfounded. Brother Li, you actually knew that I used the windmill secret technique? Of course. The Thousand Faces technique is an authentic high-level secret technique of the windmill planet. It wasn't easy for you to inherit this technique in the Pure Lands, Li Beihan said with a smile. Where is the windmill planet? Sumo hurriedly asked. This was something he had always wanted to know. The windmill planet and the Pure Lands are separated by 3 realms. For the current you, it's out of reach. There are many things that you still don't understand. Li Beihan gave Sumo a very serious look. Brother Su, to you it doesn't matter. Brother Su, for you, nothing else is important. There's only one thing that's important. To increase my realm. Sumo smiled bitterly. That's right. Li Beihan nodded, then filled Sumo and himself with a cup of wine. Brother Su, thank you for your hospitality today. Let's drink and talk to one's heart's content. Now, I have to take my leave. You and I are fated to meet again in the Netherworld City. Good. Thank you, Brother Li, for telling me so many secrets. Although Sumo wanted to ask more, it wasn't convenient for him to do so. The two raised their cups and drank together. Brother Su, I have something for you. As he spoke, Li Beihan took out an item from his bosom. It was a jade pendant. This jade pendant hides a strand of divine sense. This divine sense is enough to ensure your safety in the netherworld. In times of crisis, it will ensure your safety. Thank you. Sumo didn't stand on ceremony and took it directly. Take care. Li Beihan cupped his fists and smiled. I hope that Brother Su can increase your realm and awaken as soon as possible. Beihan, farewell. Sumo also cupped her fists and wanted to say something. However, Li Beihan's figure flashed and disappeared. At the same time, the barrier that Li Beihan had set up earlier also disappeared. Sumo spread out her divine sense, trying to find him. However, even though she covered the entire Beihan city, she couldn't find any trace of Li Beihan's aura. Hiss! Sumo held the jade pendant in her hand and couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The jade pendant was in the shape of a budding white lotus. It was cool to the touch and was definitely not an ordinary object. After thinking about it, Sumo felt that the reason why she met the white-robed youth Li Beihan twice was most likely because he wanted to help her. Otherwise, how could there be such a coincidence in the world? With Li Beihan's realm, why would he tell so many secrets to an undead realm cultivator like her? Li Beihan? Beihan City? Sumo couldn't help but smile bitterly. It seemed that she was fated with the words Beihan. Chapter 403. After Li Beihan left, Sumo didn't leave immediately. Instead, he sat in the restaurant for a while. He poured himself a cup of wine and drank by himself. At the same time, he recalled Li Beihan's words. According to Li Beihan, the 9 underworlds was indeed very chaotic. And for Sumo, the most important thing right now was to increase his cultivation. Cultivation was the foundation of everything. Sumo put away the jade pendant Li Beihan gave him and drank the last cup of wine. Then, he also left Beiqian to get drunk. At this time, Sumo was in no mood to do anything else. He returned to the Qiangue Inn. Arriving at the inn and returning to his room, Sumo immediately set up an enchantment. Today, not only did he meet Li Beihan, but he also bought a mysterious black fragment. The shock to his soul was something that Sumo didn't dare to underestimate. At this moment, Sumo had a thought and patted his storage pouch. The fragment of the black artifact was already floating in front of him. Sumo squinted his eyes and carefully examined it. The black fragment was only the size of a palm and was very irregular. It should be the result of the artifact shattering. On it, there were strange runes. Unfortunately, Sumo couldn't understand a single one of those runes. However, he seemed to have seen those runes before, but he couldn't remember where. Buzz, buzz, the black fragment floated in the air, slightly vibrating. It contained a mysterious power. This power hadn't been displayed in the artifact forging pavilion. But at this moment, Sumo felt it. For Sumo, it was a kind of summoning. Thus, Sumo very naturally extended a finger and lightly touched the black fragment. Buzz, buzz, the black fragment began to hiss. It seemed to feel everything it was familiar with. At this moment, Sumo's body shook. At the same time, his Dan's sea began to churn. Each wave was higher than the previous, like a rising tide. The immortal foundation skeleton on the Nine Dragons' heaven's altar glowed with a golden light. Sumo's expression changed slightly. He could even feel that this black fragment once belonged to him. Buzz, 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 the black fragment seemed to be sobbing. Then, its body suddenly emitted a blinding brilliance, black and white brilliance. That brilliance was mixed with an indescribable and indescribable power. Caressing the long sword, singing the song of treading on the snow, lasting for thousands of years, passing by in a flash. Sumo had heard that demonic song before. Suddenly, the black fragment turned into a beam of light and flew directly into Sumo's Dansi. At that moment, Sumo wasn't prepared at all, nor did she have any choice. The black fragment was like an outsider, but also like a master returning home. The tides of the Elixir Sea seemed to be dancing, and the Nine Dragons deity platform softly hummed. After Sumo reached the undead realm, the skeleton sitting cross-legged on the Nine Dragons fairy platform had turned from cyan to pale gold. However, at this moment, it emitted pure golden light. Everything seemed to be welcoming the arrival of the black fragment. That was definitely something Sumo had not expected. The black fragment was in his Dan's sea, but it was not under his control. It flew in a circle, as if patrolling. Soon, the Dan's sea calmed down, and so did the skeleton. The black fragment and the Nine Dragons fairy platform had merged into one. Sumo's Nine Dragons fairy platform was like a disc. The black fragment had occupied a part of it. However, there was no movement on the Nine Dragons fairy platform. Only the part occupied had turned black. Or rather, the black fragment had embedded itself on the Nine Dragons fairy platform. Chi. A wisp of black and white light curled up from the bottom to the top of the skeleton. At that moment, Sumo suddenly felt a little dazed. The demonic song reverberated in his ears. Then he felt his Dan's sea expand endlessly. Expand. At some point, Sumo was standing in the air above his Dan's sea. The golden sea was covered in layers of waves. However, the color of the sea seemed to be turning black bit by bit. It was Sumo's first time seeing a black sea. Gradually, Sumo found himself on an island. Behind him was a deep valley. At that moment, a white sailboat suddenly appeared on the sea. The sailboat was extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, it was in front of Sumo. The sailboat was not big, only about 10 feet long. A middle-aged cultivator stood alone on it. The cultivator wore a silk scarf on his head and a long robe. He was dressed like a scholar. However, he only had one arm. That person looks familiar, Sumo thought. However, he could not remember where he had seen that one-armed cultivator before. He only felt that the cultivator was very familiar. "Young master, how are you?" The middle-aged scholar asked with a smile. "I'm fine. Thank you for your hard work, sir. It's not my first time experiencing the pain of reincarnation," a man's voice replied. Sumo heard the voice clearly, but he didn't see the other person at all. Moreover, the voice was right next to his ear. "Who is that?" Sumo asked in his heart. "Sir, when are we returning to the desolate soul realm?" The voice asked again. Very soon. This time, we must get the demonic bell. The middle-aged scholar looked at Sumo and said, I will let my soul-body avatar travel with young master. At this moment, Sumo realized that the voice just now was actually made by him. However, that was not what Sumo thought. He was actually living in another body. Sumo was shocked. What was going on? Thank you, sir. The revival of Tai Huang is just around the corner. Xiao Luo is willing to step on thousands of corpses and reach the peak of Tai Huang. The voice was very determined. Cough, 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 cough. However, then Sumo heard the sound of coughing. This body did not seem to be in good condition. Sumo was a little dazed at this time. What was going on? How could he be in another person's body? Who was Xiao Luo? Whoosh! A gust of wind blew, and the sea in front of Sumo instantly disappeared. In front of him, there was chaos. In the void, there were endless black winds and thunderbolts. It was a kind of apocalyptic scene, and Sumo felt extremely depressed. The earth shook, and there seemed to be a pitch-black hall in the distance. Kakik. In the void, there was a purple-clothed woman with long gray hair and a hideous ghost mask. There was another black-clothed male cultivator, his long hair fluttering, forming a seal with his hands. How many lives do the two of you have? The black-clothed cultivator smiled at him, but that smile was too strange. Only now did Sumo realize that the middle-aged scholar was standing next to him. One. What a pity. I have more than one life. The black-clothed cultivator answered his own question. Looking again, the black-clothed cultivator's expression changed, and he quickly formed a seal with his hands. The black light and blood light around him erupted like a volcano, spewing out. Two divine lights were like serpents flying out of the sea, dragons soaring the 9 heavens. Wang Han, don't! The purple-clothed female cultivator screamed at the top of her lungs. Boom! At that moment, Sumo understood. The black-clothed cultivator wanted to self-destruct. Boom, boom. The middle-aged scholar next to him also chose to self-destruct. The sky was filled with power, and a huge vortex appeared in the void. 2 doors of light opened. This was a spatial crack that was forcibly torn open by power. Sumo felt dizzy. He directly rushed out of the door of light. Outside the door of light, he suddenly saw a bluestone plaza. At that moment, a young cultivator in a white robe was standing in the plaza. Isn't that the black-clothed cultivator from before? But that cultivator's cultivation level seems to have advanced a step. Sumo thought, who from Crimson Snow Pavilion wants to fight again? The white-clothed cultivator challenged. Northern Chill Fiend Cultivator. Sumo did not know whose voice it was, because in his vision, there was only that white-clothed cultivator. As for the white-robed cultivator covered in devil chi, he was looking at him coldly. I am Murong Huang. Sumo could clearly hear the sound coming from his throat. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.